You sound like you may benefit from what we call advisory here at Volition. So we'll get into that in a couple of minutes, and then maybe if it's okay with you, maybe we can keep on going, and then
Yeah,
maybe.
you just scared me that I needed to have a triplex before I can make money. I'm like, wait,
No, 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 no.
what am
You're
I not
good.
calculating?
You're good, Simon. You're good. Okay, cool. Let's do this. All right. So, does investing in Toronto real estate still make sense today? Before we get into that, let's see what we're actually going to talk about today. So, well, we're past 7 o'clock now. Our networking was very fruitful for once. So, thank you for all that contributed. For the next 30 minutes, I think we're going to have some market updates, a case study, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. And before you ask the question, I will answer it. Yes, it is recorded. Yes, we will post it. Yes, you'll have access to it. So, who is Volition? Sorry, I'm just going to mute you, Simon, if that's okay. Okay. Who is Volition? So, oh, I'm stealing Ming's thunder. Ming usually does this. Go ahead, Ming.
Do these. I see there's animation in our slides.
Yeah, I learned how to use Google Slides.
So basically, well, who are we? Our mission statement really is to help people navigate the world of real estate investing. When we were first investors, like I started in 2001, an organization like Volition didn't exist. I had nobody to talk to. There's no like resources. So the idea for the company really came out of being able to help people beginning to end in real estate investing. Next
Oops, sorry. I forgot I added animation. Sorry.
Yeah, so as I already mentioned, we really want to help people from beginning to end. So that's advisory. So that's understanding the situation you're in, understanding your goals, formulating a path to get to your goals through potentially realty, which is executing against that plan. It requires purchase, sale, or renovation, which is another area of our business. So helping you actually create multifamily properties. And then lastly, we have property management, partnerships, and leasing to help you get tenants into those properties. So kind of an end-to-end solution. The last thing we kind of really pride ourselves on, you'll see a bunch of that today, is research, analysis of the data, but more importantly, actually, like, what the heck does that mean? Like turning it into actionable things to do as a real estate investor. Because it's one thing for me to say, oh, data shows interest rates are up. Great. Market is more expensive. Rents are down, like whatever. These are great data points and makes for a news article, but like, what do you do with it now as a real estate investor? What are the actions we need to take? So we have a whole section on actions right now in this current environment. We've done a lot of work for clients. Let's go in. So who are we? This is our our slide here, basically not to impress, but kind of impress upon. You want to show the whole slide, Matt? But just impress upon you guys that we do come from a place of experience. We're very sophisticated investors ourselves. We have a team that holds quite a large portfolio. Everybody in our team are real estate investors. They all have holdings. We've been on HGTV, a bunch of podcasts. We've guest spoke places. Anyway, we come from a place of experience, is all this is really trying to say. We recently got a bunch of articles on HGTV. Wow, we've got a lot of them now. Good job, Matt. I don't write these, Matt does. I just don't. Next slide.
A lot of stuff up here. And don't be fooled. We wrote these articles, and Doug Murray took credit.
I'm not a media publisher. This is kind of our first exposure to this. What we learned is actually we ghostwrite for everybody. We do credit us in the articles, but then the actual article is written by the person. So our services, as I mentioned, our the key differentiator kind of between us and, I don't know, like a regular realtor is this advisory piece. And this is truly understanding, what are you trying to achieve and how does real estate support that journey or not support it? It may be that real estate is not part of that journey, but going through advisory is really what that is about. And so that's looking at like what your financial goals are, what your life goals are, and then matching it up with real estate investing. This is also something we do for end user clients, right? Because a lot of times people think they just want to buy a home because they want to live somewhere. It's a lot more strategic if you ever are trying to do something else with your home other than it just to be a place to live. You want to rent out your basement, you want to renovate your kitchen, you want to know, is that a structural wall you can remove? Could you actually have a legal suite in here? There's a lot of questions that can come out, and we help solve some of that in the advisory phase. The next part is realty. That's the actual execution of things. So this is taking the plans we've come up with in advisory and making them reality, right? So it may be purchasing of a property, it may be selling of a property, it may be trying to find a property that meets, secondary suite requirements, or you need a fourplex, or you need a laneway, or you need a garden suite. We actually find the properties that fit this, and this is very tough. Like we basically look through. We have a back office team that looks through every single property that comes on market every single day, and then tries to figure out which ones fit the various targets that have been established with our advisory in our advisory sessions. So that way we've got the actual properties to work against. Next section, renovations. So oftentimes to get to something, let's say it was a multifamily or a laneway, you actually need to build these things. We've got a whole renovation team that does that. And lastly, it's leasing property management. So you've got this beautiful place, now you need to get some good quality tenants in there. We have leasing and partnerships on the property management side to make that happen. This is the team. A good chunk of us are on tonight. And if you're interested in joining, please let us know. We're always growing. Yeah, and just a bit on the normal agent side, as I touched on, you want to show the whole slide, Matt? So as I touched on, surprisingly, I think a lot of people find this surprising, about 40 to 50% of what we do is, normal end user work. And the reason is it's a very large transaction, and the rigor and data that we bring to investing, we also bring to regular real estate. And a lot of times people's transactions are not as simple as I'm just buying a house. Does it require construction? How much are these things going to cost? Because we have a construction wing of the company, we can provide estimations, and fairly good estimations, because we're actively doing the constructions. You need secondary suites to help with cash flow. What kind of tenant profiles am I getting? Even if we go a lot beyond Toronto when we're talking about regular real estate, but we're able to do all the research for folks who are, let's say you're buying a property in Scarborough and you want to understand what kind of tenant profile you're going to get when you rent out a basement there. How much is that going to get appraised for? How much is that going to impact your mortgage qualification? So we do stuff like that. Advanced financing as well, because oftentimes advanced financing can be an edge when you're buying or selling. We actually talk about some of these later on as strategies to implement here and now. Lastly, we're good at what we do. We're actually top 1% of all agents in the city. So. And finally, this is our, people have like a mission statement. This is our mission picture. We try to be that real estate, that eraser in your real estate journey to kind of blast through the confusion and help along the way. Just a reminder to folks, in case we've missed you for whatever reason, please let us know to add you onto our private WhatsApp chat. This is for all our active clients. So if you are not sure if you're an active client, then you're probably not. You should know, because there's a fee behind it.
Well, funny enough, this is what Lava just called us out. Lava in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Lava and Daniel are going to have a chat. Okay, cool. Getting into the market data. So we always start with the TREB data, and actually got updated today, which is kind of the nice thing about this meetup getting delayed. But the HPI data didn't get updated for April. So this is sales volume data. And it's really interesting because like today, all these headlines, oh, you know, year over year sales down 40% or something like that, 35, 40%. But when you look at the chart, it's what you expect. Sales have been down quite a bit since 2021, up for every month, because 2021 was an absolutely bonkers year, and I don't expect sales to reach that. It's seasonal too. Like we have a seasonal drop. Typically March, maybe into April, tend to be your busier months, and then it starts to tail off. And we also had an interest rate event, right, where there's a bit of a rush before, and then into April was the fallout from the interest rate event. And if you've been a long-time Volition follower, we beat with a dead horse. It gets very busy before an interest rate hike because everybody's trying to get in before an interest rate hike. After an interest rate hike happens, things slow down because people have bought now. And then before the next interest rate hike, things start to pick up again. And it's exactly what we're seeing here. And it's reflected in some of this data. Average home sale price is down again, but this is really interesting. So for longtime followers, I'm not a big fan of this number because it's an average. Tell me what's happening at the top end or the low end. It's just what is the average home sale price, and it is down. So we always look at called HPI data, which we scrape and turn into our own graphs. But there's actually conflicting information this time. And me and Matt and Ali Khan had this whole conversation around the conflicting data. So Daniel was giving us a shout out on data. We really do look at it, and it doesn't make sense this month. We have some theories behind it though. So just keep in mind, average home sale price is down. Let's go to the next slide. The host muted me.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, host.
Sorry, I was muting a whole bunch of other people who were making noise. Sorry.
All good. So the next thing is new listings. We put this on here just so people have an idea of what's happening with inventory in the city. Inventory is actually decent. And if you've been an active client of ours, it's very different from January and kind of into February where I had nothing to show. And we were going on a lot of educational tours because we knew they were busts, like we weren't going to buy these properties anyway, but it was kind of good to walk through them. There's actually been opportunity in the last, I'd say, month or two. And we've been very active on submitting offers as a result. Next slide. Okay, so our data. So instead of just looking at an average, we're looking at something called the home price index. That looks at like-for-like properties. So let's say you've got a 3-bedroom, semi-detached. It looks at what 3-bedroom, semi-detached homes are selling for month over month over month. First, we're looking at the downtown properties here. So kind of these downtown neighborhoods, if you're not familiar with them. And the data has been segregated by TREB neighborhoods, so CO1, CO2. And this is what we're seeing and what we have seen downtown single-family detached homes. So if you can see here, there's actually continued to be a rise into March in the HPI data. This directly contradicts what we're seeing in TREB data. I don't think either data sets are wrong. So what are the possible theories? So how can one say that we're going down in price and the other saying we're going up in price? There's kind of two things really. One, we could be seeing more activity at the lower end of the market. So maybe there's a lot more condo sales, condo volume of sales, which is therefore bringing down the average transactional price just because there's more cheap stuff selling. And that's accounting for it. But I don't think that's right because anecdotally, for ourselves active in the market, we are seeing the market price come down a little bit, 2, maybe 5%. We're seeing the prices come down. So I don't think that the average home sale price decrease is actually driven by increase in volume in the lower end. The other explanation is that the HPI is a lagging indicator. And I don't have evidence to back this up. I kind of scoured through the HPI website before today. But my theory is that HPI numbers are actually based on closings, right? Because they may not know the sale price until close, or they may not be posting it until close. I think once we start to get April, May, June data on HPI, if we see a downturn, then I'll know for sure that there's a lag between the time that we're seeing pricing posted in HPI versus what we're seeing in the TREB data. Because I do believe that there is actually a small correction, no, I won't call it correction, a small reduction in pricing right now. If you go to the next slide, Matt, you'll see condos, the same story. Condos are still showing an increase in HPI. And while we have had some very successful condo sales, I will also say that in that, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but I think it's more us than it is the market. The market overall, because we are also on the buyer side for some of these things, that has slowed down. It is less competitive right now for a buyer. Next slide. And then we also look everywhere outside the downtown core, kind of as a balance here. And that's the wrong data. That is incorrect. Sorry, guys. And the reason that this is not correct is because I'm very familiar with this graph, and this graph should have a big spike in 2017 on prices. Anyway, the high level understanding of what's happening outside the city, it is similar to what we're seeing downtown, except we saw a big spike in 2017 and there's been recovery throughout since 2017. But that does not look like the right graph to me. So I apologize.
You want me to try to find the
It's okay.
last month's graph?
But I think the key takeaway here is actually the difference that I'm seeing between HPI and average home sale price, because those two tend to be in step somewhat, right? But this is actually a direct different movement between the two graphs. And I think that's the most important thing to point out.
Rice, brown rice.
Next slide, Matt.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, so I'm just gonna, if you want, I can just show you this. Can you see this? This was the one from our February meetup. So just so you know, that's so Ming was very astutely pointed out. We actually somehow pasted the wrong thing in here. That's why we had this big spike in here. So that's why Ming knew it was the wrong one. So this was from our February meetup. Just so obviously this is the wrong graph. Okay, no problem.
Looks like the condo graph actually.
Yeah, something happened here. Okay.
Next slide, please.
Okay, let me go back to presentation mode.
Cool. And so we're just going to do a case study today on the sale of our property. I think this is really interesting as we get into a market that is a little less aggressive. Sales can go, I don't want to say sideways these days, but that's probably the best term. Yesterday, I don't know if my client's on the line, but we basically had a property yesterday which had an offer night. Only 2 offers came through. They went until 10 p.m. Nothing happened, and then I got the offer just died. And then I got a call at 5 o'clock today, and basically they're not selling the property now. It's extremely disorganized. So we wanted to talk about like how it should happen, a sale. So yeah, well, let's get into it then.
Hey guys, my name is Daniel, not to be confused with the other Daniel, who's also very experienced with real estate, but I'm a investor realtor at Volition. And this is a listing that Ming and I took on together. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in Scarborough. And we're just going to walk you through today about how that went, what was the process like, how Volition can add value, like to help you guys sell your condo or your property. So I just want to take you first through the 5 steps, just in case you're not familiar with it. So we have first discussion and planning. This is where we meet with you, understand what your needs are, understand what you're looking for, what the ideal outcome is for you. And then we can plan ahead in terms of what that next few steps look like. And then we have pre-listing. So that's going through the property, seeing what condition it is, what condition it's in, what we may need to do. For example, we need to do some repairs, we need to do some staging, and this is where we decide that. And then we have marketing, and this is where we take all the nice pictures, make it look all pretty, and then post it on MLS, which is in the listing side of things. So listing is where we get it out onto the MLS, and then we start seeing a lot of activity from agents, hopefully, and they come see the property, and then on offer night, or depending on whether we decide offer night or not, then they come in with their offers, and then we go into the sale of the property where we present those offers to the client, and then accept the best offer. Hopefully you get multiple offers so that we can have a bidding war going on.
So let me give a bit of context around this, because I think sometimes like why are we even going through this if you're interested in real estate investing? Sales can, this is really where advisory comes in, but it is oftentimes part of a process. I think it's very rare we get into real estate investing with a perfectly set up portfolio, right? I certainly didn't. I was in student rentals, I was in Waterloo. Like, it didn't actually meet what I was trying to get through. And I had to go through a bunch of sales until I had proper strategy. Now, if you're starting from the ground up and you've got a plan, you're working with us on advisory, you can probably execute correctly from day one, or at least towards your goals correctly from day one. But oftentimes, I would say 90% of our clients are not like that. They come to us with like a condo or a townhouse or something. And, we're going through this because, it sometimes is part of the process of real estate investing is actually divesting. But this is really kind of a standard, right? And hopefully you work with us, but if you don't, this is like how to do it. And also the standard to hold up to others, right? So, expect this through your listing process. So the next thing here is understanding needs. I like this slide because it's like, we've got all these terms here, but what really matters, I think, is like understanding what is important to your particular situation. This is advisory, but if it's not as deep as advisory, this is still understanding what the money's for. Why are you even selling? Because it may not be the right thing for you, especially in your real estate investing journey. Maybe it's a refinance. Maybe you sell equity to somebody. There are many options, and that's where I think advisory is very important. Market conditions. In this particular case, in this case study that we're going through, it wasn't a great time to be selling, right? This was about a month or so ago. So this is just after the rate increase, and the market had slowed down considerably. That in context guided our marketing strategy, our listing strategy, because I think oftentimes people are like, oh, just like put it on the market and have like a bidding war. Well, if it's not the right conditions for a bidding war, you're going to sell yourself short. So it really depends on actually what's happening at that particular moment in the market. And it's very dynamic, because what was relevant a month ago is not the same strategy I'd be using now, because things change very quickly. The next thing we do is we go through all the detailed paperwork. We go line by line actually through the kind of the 30 or 40 pages, so that way people are really clear on what they're signing on. And then we have what we call ongoing communication here. But what it is we have project plans, Gantt charts, WhatsApp chat groups, a whole litany of things to keep stuff organized, because there's a lot of things going on during these steps.
Okay, so yeah, thanks Frank for the overview and explaining why working with Volition, we keep things organized, we keep you like informed of what's going on, so you always feel like you're being supported and that you have peace of mind. And so in this pre-listing process, what we did was we walked through the property with the client, And we just go through and see if there's anything that needs to be pointed out. For example, like you see in the pictures here, we have paint that's, make the property look older. It doesn't look as spacious with like darker colored paints. And we have damage, you see there behind the dresser. That was from a TV that was removed and damaged the walls. So these sorts of things are that basically will hinder the sale of the property. So we need to point them out and decide what to do with them. So in this case, it was simply a matter of painting the entire condo, and that would solve the issue of the color making it seem older, and as well as the damaged wall there.
We actually talked the seller out of renovating the kitchen because some of the obviously they want to achieve the best price, and they thought, okay, maybe we should rip out the kitchen, maybe we should renovate it. But one of the really key things, this is not just for selling property, but let's say you're renting out a property, is to really know who your target demographic is. In our case, we knew that our target demographic is a first-time home buyer, young family, or older retired couple. Though that's the majority of the building, right? So if you're in a neighborhood like, I don't know, Trinity Bellwoods or something like that, that's very young professional, and they demand, nicer finishes. They want quartz countertops. They want lighter, brighter kitchens. They won't like something like this. But a very price-conscious Simon's giggling as he looks at his quartz counters in the distance. The reality is our target market is actually pretty price sensitive, and it's not worth it for us to spend $15,000 on new cabinetry and try to roll that over to a potential buyer, because they rather actually save a bit of money. They're pretty price conscious. So it's these kind of decisions that we want to guide people through. This is not always about making it the best, because you might actually scare away your target market.
Absolutely. And in this case, as Ming was saying, we don't want to over renovate, and we just want to do the quick and easy renovations that will give the highest ROI. And paint is one of the best ones, as well as just, you see that bare light bulb, just installing new light fixtures, right? So these are things that
institutional, like a light bulb by itself.
Yeah. And so we work with our in-house interior designer to select the right paint and light fixtures and choose materials that won't break the bank, right? We choose materials that will look good, but won't cost too much, because as Ming was saying, we're not aiming to out renovate everyone else, right? We're aiming to get the right value for the property. So
this is that's actually really, really, really key. Our interior designer is in-house. We are real estate investors, which means we're looking at value, right? We are really, really price conscious ourselves, and we want to get best bang for the buck. And what that leads us to is getting the right look and feel at a much, much more reduced price. So those could be a Chinese quartz instead of your Caesar stone quartz, but still has the same effect and same look and feel. If we were selling a house in Rosedale or Leaside, then obviously that would not be the case, right?
Yeah.
So,
but it's if you need book matched marble over your fireplace. But right. It's nice that we have a construction division, because we have access to this huge book of contractors to get the right type of renovation for that particular property. The takeaway for anybody who's doing this is the right renos. Not all renos are the right renos, but make sure you're getting the right renos.
Yes. So we moved on to, after renos were done, we move on to cleaning and staging. So getting the place professionally cleaned is a worthwhile investment. It's a couple $100 for the whole condo. Make sure that the place is ready essentially for staging, and make sure that when people come in, they're not wiping their finger on the table and wondering why it's so dusty. So it's a good thing to get done. And we work with the stager. We have like a network of people who we prefer to work with on staging, and we handle the coordination of when come in, booking the elevators, and we stage the unit according to the budget of our client, as well as what the market expects. Right? As we said before, this is not a high-end luxury place in Bloor Young. So we wanted to go with the staging budget that made sense. And we were able to get this condo staged very quickly and cost effectively. The professional photos, you see the photos before made it look like, this was quite, it was actually, the client was in middle of a move out, so I can't blame him for all of that. But you can see that, it looks dark. It looks, if you listed it out like this, then I don't think many people would come. Moving on, like we knew that we needed to declutter, we need to get things out, and then get things staged and get professional photos taken. So you can see that afterwards, what a difference, right? So the same kind of rooms that we saw before are now completely transformed because of the work that we were recommending to our clients. And this makes it much more likely that you'll get multiple buyers who are interested in the property.
So as a RE investor, one, this is obviously important if you're going to sell an asset, but two, even if you're renting, there's a surprising number of really crappy rental ads out there, like inexcusable in this day and age. Rental ads out there. It is minimal. This is the bare minimum to get good renters. If you have crappy pictures, you're gonna get a tenant profile that suits that, right? Get a professional photographer in there to do this. If it's an expensive rental property, like some of our luxury properties where we're renting them out for 35, 39, 4,000 a unit, get it staged, spend the money, get it staged, because it's amazing how challenging it is for people to envision themselves in a space, and how often people look at the decor and not the property itself. So it's really important. And especially if you're selling or renting in a market that is suboptimal. And I would say it's not a red hot seller's market right now. It is cooled down.
Yeah. And the other thing I just want to mention was this one was obviously owner occupied, but we deal a lot with a tenant occupied unit as well, because we deal with investment properties, obviously, right? So, which is another layer of challenge on top of that. So we've handheld a ton of clients through the sale of investment properties and handle that. We actually remove that headache from them. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna mute Vincent. We handle that headache. It's negotiation with tenants. It can be stressful. Inserting ourselves into that process can be very advantageous as well. Holding the monies in trust for the tenant and all that stuff. So anyway, just something I want to quickly add, because not all times will your investment properties, if you're selling them, look this great if they're tenanted. So how do you navigate that process? We can definitely advise on that process to get to best outcomes for you. Okay.
Absolutely. And now talking about the listing. So listing went live on MLS, and right away we saw a lot of interest from buyers, and my phone was buzzing off the hook. People promising me, bully offers. They're like, "What can we do to get you to take this offer?" And this is, part of our job is to know that we have a strategy and we're sticking with it, and we know we want to have an offer night because the market's still there's still interest, and there's still a lot of buyers, and offer night gets them all together so that we can have multiple offers and boost up the sold price. So
we had a couple of three I think came in, like bully inquiries. basically. And they were willing to pay us probably about 20 or 30 over market. And in a soft market, and that would have made our seller already very happy. But you know, we stuck with our story. Thank you very much. Come offer night, right? We have our ways of kind of keeping them interested. It's like being a tease at a bar, like keeping them kind of interested, but not giving everything away, just enough that they're buying us drinks. That's the strategy we want to use when we're selling. Sean's gonna quote me on this and tell the rest of the RE world. But basically that you know, that's what we're trying to do is to tag them along until offer night, and then really get them to all compete against each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, so despite the market already starting to slow down, we had 20 plus showings in the 1 week, which isn't a lot. Actually, it's pretty typical. But the key thing is on offer night, we got 6 offers and 5 of them were firm. So this is a lot of offers for the amount of showings we had. And this means that the buyers who actually came and saw the place were very happy with, you know, how it was shown and the work that we did to get it there. So this is a really good sign there. And the result was that we had two firm offers above 700,000. One of them didn't have their deposit check ready, and the other one did. And we presented both offers, or we presented all the offers to our client, and we told them what are the risks of, you know, taking like a higher offer that didn't have the deposit check available, and then or taking the slightly lower offer but that had the check available. And the thing is, when you take offer without the deposit check, there's a chance, even though it's like maybe 10% or 5%, there's still a chance that they might come and say, oh, you know, we back out, like we changed our mind and we don't want to put the go through with it and don't want to give you the deposit. Although you could pursue them legally and get that deposit at the end, but it's a lot of headache. And our client at the end of the day decided to take the slightly lower offer, but had the deposit check on hand.
This is a lesson for buyers. Like I often tell my buyer clients, like, it's not always about the price. Yes, a lot of the time the price matters, but you know, at the top end, you have to be in the top end. But if you're in the top end, it's going to be other things, because most people, they're not that. If it's $5,000, $10,000 separating the top bids, it's going to be things other than just price that matters at that point. Most people aren't that picky over a couple of $1,000 at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so if I just jump in, so you raise a really good point. Everyone thinks it's about maximum sales price, and obviously you do want maximum sales price. But when you start realizing other aspects of it as well. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my kids; you're yelling in the other room. But let me give you an example. So we, as investor realtors, are extremely familiar with things like VTBs, vendor take-back, seller financing, agreements for sale, joint ventures, all these types of things. And actually, I'm sorry, hopefully I can't really mute them or I'll mute me. So I'll go on mute after this. But putting those deals together is something investor realtors can do. And if you are, for example, during the discovery phase, during the early phase where we're getting to know you and what your goals are very, very important. Because if you are willing, for example, to leave some equity in the property and let the buyer come in with a very small or no down payment, you can get maximum sales price. Literally, you could probably get another 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, just because someone doesn't have to come in with a down payment if you were willing to leave that equity in the property, as an example. And that's what a vendor take back is. Or we structure like an agreement for sale, or we structure it in some other a dozen different ways. We know how to sandwich leases, rent to owns, all these other things. So there are lots and lots of ways to get higher sales prices, maximum sales prices, higher than what you would get if you thought, I want to sell and then walk away with all my money. The question is, what are you doing with the proceeds? So if you don't have any plans for those proceeds, maybe there's an opportunity for us to help you structure a deal where you can literally get now maximum sales price higher than anyone else would be able to get on the market, right? You might not be willing to do that. Maybe you have plans for it. Maybe you have to go buy another primary residence. Maybe you're going to retire, or maybe you're going to use it for school, for kids' education or something like that. And that's fine too. But that's the point of working with someone like Volition, investor realtors who know how to structure deals like this. Normal realtors don't even know this stuff exists. So that's why that's one of the reasons that we literally are able to get maximum sales prices for our clients. Cool.
Cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the client was very happy with the sold price, and it was way above his expectations. But also, even after the listing, we provide support, and we make sure that he has peace of mind, right? So what happened was actually on the day of offer night, the toilet leaked, unfortunately, and caused damage to the unit below. And so that means there's an issue with the toilet. It means there's an issue with the unit below, and the neighbors are not happy about that. But we handle it very professionally, and we told the buyers to put in a clause that will fix the toilet, will fix the issue downstairs. And so we coordinate everything from there as well. So handling the toilet repair, bringing in the plumber that we trust, working with property management, who we developed a good relationship during the listing, and to write an agreement that we will fix the damage, and then they'll drop the they'll be okay with the fix. So this is
close
example.
To seller's nightmare, if you can imagine. Yeah. Like a couple of hours before we're supposed to all sit down and look at the offers, we get this not a panic, but a call basically from that the toilet's leaking into the neighbor below. I don't think it gets any more perfect than that, but it is what it is. We work through it. Thank you so much, Daniel. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just laughing because it was like when you called me, I was like, oh my God, really? Like we're like 2 hours away. Anyway, we do a whole bunch of listings. This is something that here's just a litany of properties that we have.
They do. I mean, they range all the way from condos to luxury homes. This was a $3 million listing. We do everything in between as well. And it's one thing I do want to kind of just circle back, and the one other thing that's really, really, really important to do is to really hone in on what's important to the buyer. That's no skin off of your back. That's another great way to get extract a bunch of extra value. So for example, if the buyer really needs an extension on their financing, for example, maybe it's no skin off your back. Maybe you're not in a huge rush. Maybe you can give them a 30-day extension or an option that they can extend up to 30 days 3 times at buyer's sole discretion for an extra $5,000 or $10,000 or something like that. So there's all these different ways we can negotiate to if there's no skin off of your back, then it's fantastic. And if it's important to the buyer, that's the perfect way to marry those things up. All right. Okay. So if you're interested in listing, reach out to us. Our email address, or I believe Alikan is going to drop a link in the chat box for advisory. And just as a special promo we're running right now, the next 3 clients who list with us within the next 3 months will get free staging and free contractor management. So just like what we did here, we managed the whole renovation process and the repair process end to end. We can do that for you too. Cool. All right, let's get some meat and potatoes, some sizzle on my steak. So the question that's on everyone's mind. It is literally the single most common question I get these days on my advisory sessions. I have probably 5 to 10 advisory sessions a week, and this is literally the question I get every single time. Does Toronto still work? So my intention for today is going to be to provide a zoomed out view. I think everyone gets very caught up in the headlines. Everyone gets caught up on things like interest rates and recession and wars and all that stuff. Not that that stuff's not important. It is. It really, really is. But let's get some perspective. And the only way we can do that is to zoom out, and then we're going to fill in the gaps, and then we're going to connect the dots. So hopefully this is part of that synthesis that Ming was talking about that Volition prides ourselves on. Okay, so here is a whole bunch of crap, a whole bunch of chaos. Everyone is so inundated with all these headlines, rising prices, or prices are falling, or who knows, it's like, bidding wars, or war in Ukraine, or non-resident tax. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. So the question is, how do you separate the signals from the noise? So we're actually going to talk about economic fundamentals, and we're going to contrast that with something new. We don't talk about this a lot, and we haven't talked about this a lot over the years at Volition, but these things are called market influencers. So we're going to dive into those today. Then we're going to get into rising interest rates, rising prices, and a cash flow sensitivity analysis. We want to see what the impacts of those things are. Then we're going to talk about what's happened with market rents. And then we're going to bring it all together. And again, this is really the synthesis. What does this mean for Toronto as a whole? What does this mean for me as a buyer? What does this mean for me as a seller? So we've got all these different data points. We research them, we analyze them. It's meaningless unless we can figure out what to do with them, right? And the last thing we're going to do is going to spend some time at the very end talking about how to boost cash flow. So actionable Volition strategies and tactics. So there may be a whole litany of questions that you might have, and what I would ask you to do, drop them in the chat box. I think Ali Khan is going to monitor that, and I think Ming is going to serve them up to us once in a while. What I'm going to try to do is at the end of every section is take a beat, and if I remember, so remind me if I forget, take a beat and maybe we'll try to answer a couple of quick questions. Cool? All right, let's do this. All right, so economic fundamentals versus market influencers. So here's a quick preamble. This is just a quick overview. We literally do a full 8-hour, full day masterclass deep dive. We normally do one every year. We didn't do one this year. So our last one was January 2021. So it is in the premium section of our website if you'd like to go there and subscribe. So this is just a high level overview. We are not going to get into the weeds here, but as a high level overview, I'm just going to basically talk about what the different factors are without necessarily going into them and applying them to Toronto. And that's normally what we do at our masterclass, right? So everyone wants to know, this is really the question you really need. This is really the answer to the question everyone has. Everyone's actually asking all the wrong questions. Everyone always asks, what's the best property to buy? Or is real estate gonna tank? Or is there a recession or downturn, real estate crash or whatever? Those are the wrong questions to be asking, actually. What you need to ask is, more fundamentally, what drives a real estate market? And this is your answer. What it starts with is economic growth and job growth. Economic growth and GDP growth, which leads to, if you have economic growth, you have job growth. You have industries moving in, creating jobs, which leads to population growth, meaning people move into a city to take those jobs, which means increased rental demand, because for the first 12 to 18 months, they're going to be renting typically. Typically don't buy immediately. So increased rental demand means decreased vacancies. Decreased vacancies means increased rents because of supply and demand. And once the cost of rents approaches the cost of ownership, people start jumping over and start wanting to buy, right? The other thing that happens is upon increased rents, it becomes more attractive for institutional investors, and the big money starts coming in, buying up real estate as well, driving real estate demand even further. This is what drives a real estate market more fundamentally. Okay. So yes, it's really simple. It comes back to supply and demand, right? So this is all the crap that we just talked about. So long and short of it is the economic fundamentals are strong in Toronto, right? So this is more, the stuff that I just talked about is more like Toronto as a whole kind of stuff. But that doesn't help you. If you want to invest in Toronto, you need to know a hell of a lot more than that. And that's where Volition comes in. So the real estate fundamentals are really around things like the right tenant profile, the right neighborhoods, ensuring that you have well-paying, stable companies or companies moving in, diversified industries. You need to be looking at transit. You need to be looking at gentrification. You have to be looking at infrastructure. You have to be looking at immigration. You have to be looking at, can the property that I actually want to buy, does it have the development potential can it do what I want it to do? Can I add another suite? Can I densify? Can I turn it into a legal luxury triplex? Can I add that laneway suite or a garden suite? So it's ensuring that you have the right investment strategy and the right property to execute. And that's really the Volition secret sauce. But unfortunately, we're not going to get into that today because that is part of our masterclass. So we'll just have to keep on moving on. But essentially, economic fundamentals plus the real estate fundamentals is what is going to ensure your real estate investment success. Okay, so where do market influencers fit in? So what are market influencers? Things like interest rates, things like ease of borrowing or the financing and availability of financing. It's confidence in real estate as an investment vehicle. It's inflation. It's government intervention and government meddling, taxation, and other stuff like that. It's foreign investment, foreign capital, and it's investment alternatives. These things are market influencers. These things are not fundamental. These things do not underpin a real estate market. These things have an influence over the real estate market, and truth be told, it can be a drastic influence, but it is temporary at best. It is not permanent like the economic fundamentals that I talked about previously. So let's go through it. Are interest rates headline, one of the headlines today? I would say so. Financing, changing mortgage rules. Hell yeah. Confidence in real estate as an investment vehicle. That's probably the reason all of you are here today. To try to figure out where everything's going. Inflation at 6.7%, I would say so. Government intervention, government legislation, government meddling, yes, that is a factor. Foreign investors, we keep on hearing about all of that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And investment alternatives. Should I invest in real estate or should I invest in Bitcoin? Should I invest in real estate or should I invest in Tesla? Should I invest in real estate or should I stock hack? All those things, right? Yes, it has a factor as well. So the question is this stuff shifting the market? Is this having an influence over the market? Yes, it has an influence over the market. Next question is it easy to confuse these with economic fundamentals? This is where a lot of people get confused. This is where a lot of people convolute the two, the economic fundamentals. They'll be looking at these market influencers like interest rates and going, interest rates mean that real estate is no longer a great investment. That's not true. That is jumping to an incorrect conclusion, actually, right? Here's something interesting. So this book, I highly, 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 highly recommend you read this book. It's called Secrets of the Canadian Real Estate Cycle. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. This thing it was written by the godfather of Canadian real estate investing. His name's Don Campbell, a mentor of mine at Rain, the founder of Rain. And one of the things he argues is market influencers equal market opportunity. Market influencers equal market opportunity. So the question is this creating an opportunity? Everyone's freaking the heck out, right? Everyone's like, oh my God, I'm not going to touch real estate with a 10-foot pole, or they're going to go to the sidelines because they think things are going to drop more, or all those types of things, right? And those people who don't understand the difference between economic fundamentals and market influencers are the people who are going to be left behind. Okay, so fundamentals versus influencers. So just as a quick recap, the stuff on the left, fundamental, the stuff underpins the market. This will dictate your real estate investment success over the long term. Market influencers has a temporary impact on the market, could be creating an opportunity as long as the fundamentals are still sound. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So I am at the end of a section and I remembered to take a beat. So is there a question? Is there anything anyone wants to ask?
We haven't had anything drop in the chat, so that's good. I'd keep going, Matt. And the only thing I'd add is, Matt mentioned that they're influencers, and sometimes they have different levels of impact, and that can actually mean that it's a very strong impact, right? I think if you go back to 2017, remember some of the policies that came in around foreign investors and foreign taxes, it knocked the market off for like 5-6 months, but fundamentally it didn't change our economic position. It didn't change our GDP. It didn't change our population growth. And things just went back to normal after a couple of months. And I think that's the way to look at things. So I'm sure you're going to dive into that anyway, Matt. Probably just stole your information from the next couple of slides.
Yeah, you just stole my punchline. Thanks. Okay, let's talk about our chaotic environment and the interesting times that we live in. So, the summary of the chaos. Should I just go through these one by one? Yeah, okay. Let's just go through them one by one. So the first thing that I've got on the docket, and mind you, this is not a comprehensive, I'm not talking about everything. These are just some of the things that have come through, let's say, our inner circle WhatsApp chat, stuff that comes, the headlines I've seen. There's definitely more other stuff happening in the market as well. What I wanted more so than anything else, instead of going through every single piece of minutia, is give you the framework to think about it and think about it yourself critically, right? So that way you can then research, analyze, and synthesize yourself without having to necessarily depend on Volition. And or if you decide that you want to invest in a market outside Toronto, and Volition only analyzes Toronto because that's the market that we operate in, then you are now equipped to be able to analyze that market as well. Okay, cool. All right. So war in Ukraine and global uncertainty. So what I want to talk about more so than the actual event. It's not the event. It's going to be more about the cause and effect. So war in Ukraine.
But I would say that what we're trying to do is in context of real estate investing, right? So aside from the tragedy of the war, what does that actually mean to us as real estate investors?
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to remind him of it. So
I am very empathetic and sympathetic about what's happening there. So yes, in the context of real estate investing. So we really want to think about cause and effect. We want to think about these cause and effect profiles, and we want to see what the impact is on us as real estate investors. That's really what we want to get down to. We want to distill it down to that. So, for example, war in Ukraine causes a lot of global uncertainty and uncertainty in the global markets. And potentially what it leads to is maybe a population growth in Canada. Maybe. We don't know, right? Certainly you got some, the some refugees and stuff like that. But over the longer term, is there more of a trend towards that? I'm not sure. But generally speaking, when there is uncertainty, capital moves to places of safety. Canada is a place of safety. Canada is economically stable, politically stable, socially stable, all the rest. And that is the reason people invest, foreigners invest here, right? So foreign capital is definitely going to be on the rise as a result of what's happening in the global context, okay? All right, so what's happened then? If you have a rise in prices, you have a decrease in cash flow. So that's really kind of the effect, the cause and effect profile. So now looking at the war in Ukraine and matching it against economic fundamentals or market influencers, increase in population, if that happens, that is a positive in terms of the economic fundamentals. If there's an increased demand, that's a positive in terms of the economic fundamentals. Now, the market influencer component of this is the foreign capital. The foreign capital is a market influencer, not an economic fundamental. But increase in foreign capital also means more investment in real estate, right? Is this starting to make sense? Should I go into this any further, Ming or anyone?
I think this is good. Maybe what we can do is, because there's a lot of these things that have come our way, maybe just open up the whole slide and we can focus on these yellow highlights that you have, because I think that's what ultimately matters, right? Like to think through the noise and understand, like, what does this actually mean to my real estate investment? Well, what we end up caring about is like cash flow, as Matt pointed out here. Inflation, we're going to care about, well, there's some good to inflation because rent is a component of inflation, of inflationary calculations, right? But there's real estate prices, there's interest rate increase, and Matt has here highlighted what's rents. These are some of the things that we're pulling out of the noise. And it's this mindset shift, which I think is really key here, because it's easy to get ruminated and worry about all these things going on, actually the complexity of it all. But it's like, what does it actually mean to my investment? Like what are those key things? And that's what we're trying to pull out here. And that's what we're trying to demonstrate.
Yeah, for sure. So inflation is a result of economic growth and lower employment, which inflation almost by definition means increased prices of goods, increased wages, milk costs more, gas costs more, bread costs more, real estate costs more, rents should also cost more, right? So what we're seeing here is a rise in prices. Rents are actually lagging a little bit, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so what we're seeing here is a rise in all that stuff, rise in real estate prices. The reaction to that is rising interest rates. So rising interest rates is to curb economic growth, actually. It's one of the tools in monetary and fiscal policy that the Bank of Canada has to actually try to keep our economy in check, right? So we don't want stupid amounts of economic growth. We want slow and steady. And inflation at 6.7% is a little too high. So they rising interest rates. So we've been in a low interest rate environment for forever, for a very long time, the last 4 or 5 years, right? And rising interest rates then have an impact on cash flow. So what do we do then? What's our action? What's our insight? Let's figure out how we boost cash flow. And we're going to talk about that a bit later. But also keep in mind rising interest rates and what inflation actually means. Inflation, it doesn't just mean increased prices. It actually more fundamentally, if you could take it back to first principles, it's an inflation of the money supply. So you have a certain amount of currency out in the economy, right? And when you dump a whole bunch of more money in there or currency, these dollars that I have in my pocket or my hand, mean that it takes more of it actually devalues it. It means I need more of those dollars to pay for eggs and gas and bread and rent, right? So rents almost by definition have to be on the rise eventually. Okay. So let's take this back to the economic fundamentals now. Rising economic growth is a positive factor. Lower employment is a positive factor, and rising interest rates has a dampening effect on the real estate market. So I know that was one of the earliest questions in this whole chat. Someone asked, "What happens if interest rates go up?" This is the dampening effect it has on real estate. Okay, what's happening to rents? So as of right now, the reason I don't have rents as saying rents are on the rise currently right now is because rents haven't quite caught up to where they need to be. So yes, we do. We'll get to this. Rents are on the rise, but they're not quite where they need to be. The trend isn't accelerating fast enough quite yet, but we do think that this is coming, and we've observed this early in the market right now. So if you have static rents but higher prices and higher mortgage and higher interest rates, you're going to have lower cash flow, right? So looking at this from an economic fundamental perspective, if rents stay static, then that's a neutral effect on real estate. If rents rise, that has a positive effect on the real estate market. Okay, so we're going to do a deeper dive into these various things. And Ming just pinged me and told me we're 10 minutes behind, so I have to hurry up now. So I'm going to just kind of move forward. NRST, right? So non-resident sales tax. So this is another big one. They just increased it from 15%. They introduced it in 2017 at 15%. And then they just recently, a few weeks ago, increased it from 15 to 20%. So what's going to happen, right? The reality is that everyone thinks that it's going to, or at least the government likes to display that they think that it's going to have this lower demand effect. The reality is it didn't have the intended effect back in 2017. And so the corollary to that is that extra 5% is not going to change things for foreign investors either. The reality is real estate in Canada and Toronto is still cheap comparatively speaking. Big money and foreign capital is comparing us against the Londons and New Yorks and Hong Kongs and so on and so forth. Toronto is relatively cheap. We're a growing city. We're fast becoming a A-class city. We're not quite there yet, which actually presents such an incredible opportunity to be investing here, right? But let's just say that it has a dampening effect. A dampening effect on demand, then that'll have a negative dampening effect on the real estate market. The point here is that just notice the similar cause and effect profiles. What you essentially want to see is what's the cause or what's the event, what's the response to that, and then what's going to be the actual effect. And the effect at the end of the day for most real estate investors, what you care about is going to be cash flow and obviously prices, right? Okay. Other things that were in the market, open bidding. Well, if you actually read more closely what this whole open bidding was going to be like, it was optional. It's optional for the sellers, which means the sellers can opt in or opt out. At the end of the day, this is more a government optics ploy. This is more about elections and crap like that than it is about actually making an impact on the real estate market. And the other thing you want to look at in Australia, it'd be interesting. We'll take a look. Okay, sorry, I thought you. Not sure how these people are getting unmuted again, but anyway, in Australia, they hold open bidding, literally with a professional auctioneer. Take a look, and you tell me whether you think that actually has had a dampening effect on real estate. So one of my close friends actually bought a place down in Sydney. He moved to Sydney, went down there, and these things are extremely emotionally ridden, right? So people get very hyped up. Professional auctioneers are riling people up. It doesn't really necessarily have the effect people think it's going to. So Anyway, increased government muddling, maybe a negative effect. Some stuff is happening on the development side, development changes on the City of Toronto and garden suites, making it easier to build up to, what was it, 4 stories, stick framing, is that right?
They're basically making development of larger stick build properties, but also the bigger impact, I think, for us as investors is removing a bunch of the barriers around development charges from multifamily. So there's a whole bunch of multifamily DCs, park levies, things like that. It would be to eliminate those parking requirements, easing up a bit on density. Those are the kinds of things that trip us up if you've gone through development process before for multifamily. That's the kind of stuff that trips us up often at COA, and that's the stuff that could potentially be coming off the table.
That comes off the table. That's great for us as investors. Makes it easier to build these things, and Volition clients, we build a whole bunch of these, right? Legal luxury triplex conversions and duplex conversions and laneway suites and all this stuff, right? So the reality is, though, it's not going to be enough. Like, it's not like a whole glut of supply is going to come on the market because of this. It's not going to be enough to change the market, and it's not going to change rents, right? So
It's just making lives easier. That's all.
Yeah, it does make it easier.
99% of the people don't care about this stuff.
Yeah, but as investors, we care about this because it has the potential of affecting our cash flow. So increased cash flow, increased asset value. So government meddling, maybe for the first time, it's a positive. Restriction of HELOC. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is like another thing people are talking about. Not allowing a HELOC to be used for down payment for another property. What do? You just there are ways around it. They're talking about maybe just needing to hold it in your account for 6 months, right? So it's a pain in the ass as an investor, but it's not going to have any real effect, right? So there's ways around it. It delays things a bit or whatever. But increased government meddling, yeah. I mean, they're trying to use all these things to dampen the real estate market, right? Flippers tax, principal residence, increased taxation, decreased profits. Really, it's not enough to change the market. This stuff is that tax was already there. What they're just doing now is they're trying to catch people who are trying to do it under principal residence. These flippers who were supposed to pay more tax, but the reality is, if you were doing it and you were doing it with any real volume, you should have been doing it in a corp anyway. And a corp was 12.5% active business income. So it's not going to have the intended effect that people think, right? It's just more of a pain in the ass. The burden of proof is on you now. Again, increased government meddling, potential dampening effect on the real estate market, but again, it's just a market influencer, right? So the point of all of this is really to understand cause and effect, separate the signals from the noise, and to figure out what we actually care about and whether we actually think that's going to have a lasting impact on the market or not.
One thing I just want to add, I hope we're not giving impacts the market.
Sorry, I'm going to mute Wakaz. Okay, yep, go ahead.
That it's not that no policy can impact the market. It's you have to look at it on a policy by policy basis, right? Because if they come up with a policy, let's say, no more immigration, that will impact the market, right? You are reducing population growth, therefore you are reducing. It has a ton of downstream effects. That kind of policy can affect the real estate market. The point of this is really, I think, each policy you're looking at, you have to look at it in the context of, is it going to impact one of the economic fundamentals, right? Or is it just nice politics? Like the foreign buyers tax is an example. Yeah. It's very popular politics, but it didn't change anything, right? Foreign buyers, if they were going to, they're looking at $150,000 to $250,000 tax. That would have stopped them if it was truly effective. They're either A, getting around it, or B, there's not that many foreign buyers.
Yeah. And truth be told, we know this, there are ways around it. We have clients who are literally getting around it as we speak. So
it's not a good, it's not well, sorry, there's a plane flying overhead. It's not a well managed tax, right? that people will find ways around these things. And I think that's kind of the point here.
So just remember, there's a difference between fundamentals and influencers. Know what the fundamentals are, know what the influencers are, and then you can make that determination on your own. Okay. Think about it in context. So this is just a preview. Where is Toronto in the real estate cycle? So the funny thing is, I initially wanted to include this in the presentation, and then Florence, who works in our team, was like, hell no, you are not going to fit this in into a 2-hour presentation. So anyway, this is just a preview of what I'm going to be talking about next month then. So the $1 million question is, where do you want to be as an investor in the real estate cycle? Most people think you want to be in boom. That's actually incorrect. And then the second $1 million question is, where's Toronto in the real estate cycle? So we're going to talk about that in the June meetup. Yay. And just to give you a preview, basically as a back test, this framework was back tested against Toronto in 1989, real estate downturn. This was back tested against Toronto in 2010, just before the boom. So it's a robust framework. Now we applied that framework to Toronto in 2022, and then TBD.
Look at us back testing our models like we're real investors here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So rising interest rates and rising prices. So we're going to do a cash flow sensitivity analysis. Is there anything before I move on, Ming? Any questions or anything I should?
No, there's a couple of questions that came through. I think we can go. Let's keep going, and then
if you can answer them right there. Daniel Wang liked the Volition porn. Volition porn alert.
Pluses and minuses in a spreadsheet.
Okay, sensitivity analysis. So let's just take let's do a scenario here. So let's just take a basic Volition triplex, 1.4 million. It's really funny when they call an entry level property 1.4 million, right? But that's the reality. 1.4 million, 5750 in rents, $1,100 expenses, 4,140 in rents. In mortgage, and $500 cash flow. So where did that land? Right here. But $510 cash flow, that was 3 to 4 months ago. What about today? So with the interest rate hike, take that same triplex, increment the price by, okay, so what I did was you can see here, as you increment price by 50,000 increments, and I incremented interest rates at a 1/4 point increments as well. You can see how this affects cash flow, right? So the commentary here is that every 50K price jump is about $150 hit to cash flow. And every 1/4 point increase is about another $150 hit to cash flow, right? So that's sort of what we can that's what we can expect in terms of impact to cash flow. So now, if we take a $1.5 million triplex, right? So let's say that 3 to 4 months ago it was 1.4 million. Today it's 1.5 million. Same amount of rent. Now the question is, and we increment interest rates from 2%, where they used to be, to 2.75. Now where do we land? We land here. We actually land into a little bit negative cash flow territory. So this sucks. This makes it really hard, right? So let's analyze it a little more.
Just end the presentation.
Right?
So we should just end the presentation.
Oh yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Okay, good night, guys. Yeah. Hey, let's take a look at this. Okay, year 0 cash flow. If you were to annualize that cash flow, it's about $3,000, right? So is this ideal? No, it sucks. It's definitely a harder environment to invest in when this happens. Is it viable? Very much so. So let's take a look. If necessary, if this is still a great asset, great long-term prospects, economic fundamentals that underpin the market are still very strong, which means that the long-term prospects are very, very good. It could still be a very good property. So what do we do? One way that we could look at this is you could capitalize the negative cash flow, i.e. have it in additional capital upon acquisition. Does this make or break? Let's take a look. So year one cash flow. Let's assume that we have 3% rent growth year over year. 3% is a nominal number. Usually it's in Toronto, it's been a lot more than that. Obviously, COVID took a dip and then had to recover. Ming is going to get into some of the rents, what's happening with rents a bit later. But let's just say 3% for now. That increases cash flow in your first year then, or sorry, at the year one mark, about $175. So you're into almost cash flow neutral territory now. So if you apply 3% rent growth, year two, you still are negative cash flow a little bit, right? But like I said, we're starting to see rents uptick even more so, right? More than 3% that we're talking about here. So year zero, $3,000 negative cash flow over the year. Year one, another $1,000 of negative cash flow. So that's about $4,000 of negative cash flow. So as rents increase over time, you'll get to neutral positive cash flow. So let's take a look at year two. Year two, we are now into cash flow positive territory. So now this is an increase of about $350, meaning that we're into cash flow positive territory now, right? So negative cash flow is not ideal. It sucks, but let's not overreact to the headlines, right? We still know that the economic fundamentals are very, very strong. We know that rents are on an uptick right now. Capitalizing $4,000 in negative cash flow when you need $350,000 to buy a $1.5 million triplex anyway, not that big of a deal, right? Relatively speaking. At Volition, we love positive cash flow, obviously, but we also keep the broader perspective in mind. Okay, it's not forever. The mid long-term prospects are still very strong. Make sure you stick to the economic and real estate fundamentals more than ever. Some important considerations to get faster rising rents. Check out one of our old presentation here. It was called Toronto's Next Hottest Neighborhood. That's one way to get faster rising rents. Make sure you have a plan to get to neutral positive cash flow. If you have no plan, you're going to be stuck in negative cash flow. This is not the right move for you, right? Remember, interest rate hikes don't exist in a vacuum. It's what I talked about before. It's a response to something, and that something is economic growth and inflation. Economic growth and inflation mean that you should be getting increased rents as well. It hasn't quite gotten there to that level yet, but it is getting there, and that's the trend. Yep. And then let's utilize some of our advanced strategies to boost cash flow, which we talked about, we'll talk about later. So does this still make sense? Does it still make sense to invest in real estate with neutral and negative cash flow? Like I said, Volition doesn't love negative cash flow, but we place it in the broader context. Elsewhere, no. If I was in a small town, if I was in Willowdale or Newmarket or Aurora or Oshawa or wherever, I would say no, because I would say you have to be looking for a market that has stronger economic fundamentals that underpin the market, that gives confidence that it's going to eventually lead to better outcomes, higher rents. In Toronto, for the right property in the right areas, it can still make sense. Keep in mind the larger picture, and also keep in mind this is demonstrating negative cash flow. So we can still find neutral or even slightly positive cash flow for Volition clients, right? It's hard, ask Ming, but it's still achievable, assuming we can find a seller that's willing to part their property at the right price, right? So let's take a look. And again, the reason I want to go through this is because I want to put this in the broader context. Let's look. Cash flow, if you look at cash on cash, the couple $100 of cash flow only gives us a couple of percent on the ROI. Mortgage pay down is roughly 8%, because in the first 5 years, you pay down roughly 13% of the principal. Depends on the interest rate, stuff like that, but generally something around that. Appreciation, if you apply 5% market growth, the Canadian average over the past 32 years was 5.4%. We're only taking 5. The Toronto market, 7% for condos over the long term, 10% for freehold over the long term. We're just using 5. That gives us roughly a 23% return. And then if you do renos, we normally expect like $1.25, $1.50 for every dollar of reno. So we should be getting a lift there too. The point here is keep in mind the role and the relative contribution of cash flow to the overall ROI. The role of cash flow and the relative contribution of cash flow to the ROI. The role of cash flow, $200, $500, even $1,000 doesn't make me rich. It doesn't help me retire. It doesn't do much for me right now, right? The role of cash flow is allowing me to hold real estate over the long term, to allow the market to do its thing, to allow time to do its thing, right? That's the real role of cash flow. So don't worry about the couple $100. The couple $100 was allowing me to hold for the long term. And again, we go into this really, really in depth in our masterclass that I mentioned before. Okay? And don't forget, okay, I already talked about this. You're not retiring off $200. This is where you should be thinking, how you should be thinking about your real estate in the broader context. So you buy a property. Let's say it's this $1.5 million triplex. Let's say it's zero cash flow, right? And then you apply 5% market growth, 3% rent growth, and 3% expenses. I'm going to go over this very quickly because this is not the crux of the presentation. But I just want to demonstrate something to you. So that property over the course of 4 years at 5% growth becomes 1.8 million. That's enough for you to refinance and go buy another one. So this is the multiplier effect that we talk about here at Volition, right? So roughly at 5% growth, every 4 years, roughly, you should be able to double up your portfolio, financing notwithstanding. Financing is going to be your biggest challenge, right? So let's just use this as a theoretical model more than anything else. It's worth 2.2 at the year 8. Let's say it's worth 2.7 at the year 12. Let's say you decide, oh, okay, that's enough. That's enough. I don't need any more. What do? You wait. If you wait 6 years, something magical happens. You reach 50% loan to value, which means you can sell off half and you pay off the mortgage the other half. This is now true cash flow. True cash flow. Not the couple $100 that we're talking about. 2, 5, even 1,000, whatever. It's not that pittance of cash flow. No one's retiring off of that. No one's building true wealth over that. This is now true wealth. This is true freedom, financial freedom. This is, properties are worth 3.6 million. You potentially own 4 of them. Rents are on the rise at 3%. Expenses were also on the rise, also at 3%. Zero mortgage, $7,900 of cash flow, times 4. This is true game-changing stuff. This is true life-changing stuff. So keep this in the broader context. If you knew this, is a couple $100 of negative cash flow for a year to the end of the world, is it a reason not to take action? Maybe, maybe not, but at least keep this in mind, right? So reaching Belize. Belize is sort of like our end goal. That's what we call it, right? So like I said, keep in mind the larger picture, cash flow now versus cash flow later. And some other alternative scenarios you can run: buy a single property, wait 30 years. That's what, my mom and dad did. It's what regular people do. It's what non-sophisticated investors do, right? I'm gonna buy a place, wait 30 years. Okay, it's not bad. It just means you gotta wait. I wanna do it. I wanna do things faster and better than everyone else. That's what we're all about here at Volition. Toronto, if you model this at 10% growth, the iteration period is not 4 years, it's 2.5 years, and it's 11 years to get to the end, not 18 years. Fewer iterations, maybe you don't need 8 properties. Maybe you're fine with 4. Maybe you're fine with 2. That also speeds things up. But just keep in mind, financing is going to be your biggest roadblock. All right. So any questions, or should I keep on going, Ming?
We can keep going, but actually, Sean had asked during the Q&A, like, what are we doing personally? Divesting is actually part of it too. A bunch of us, and actually one of the guys who was part of Volition for a long time, he sold a bunch of places. He's living off just off his investments now, semi-retired. So
This is like, truth be told, I'm in the divesting phase too. So like, I've had a bunch of properties, you know, I could sit on them for the rest of my life, or I could help. It could help me reach my goals faster by translating some of the equity in those properties into cash flow. That's essentially it. When you understand the mechanisms through which you build wealth in real estate and the levers you can play with, you can do a lot with it to reach your goals faster. So yeah, divesting. So the reason we talked about a sale and listings earlier in the presentation is because selling can very much be part of your overall real estate plan. Right? Okay, cool. I'll let you take it away, man.
Cool. Let's so all that being said, like what's actually happening, kind of boots on the ground. I'm sure you've heard. You want to show the whole slide, Matt?
Oops, sorry.
That rents are actually they are on the rise. In the last kind of 6 months, we've really seen a turn. And if you go to the next slide, I'll show some data of actually what we've been seeing. Is there another side graph to this as well? Or is that? Oh, there's all these animations. I'm so not used to it. Anyway, I couldn't get a nice graph. I was just kind of pulling them out. They don't render very well. But what I wanted to pull out here was the rents in Toronto have almost recovered to pre-pandemic levels now. So we're almost back there. And this is overall average rental prices in both the primary and the secondary markets. So if you're unfamiliar with what that is, primary market is like big commercial renters, those purpose-built apartment buildings, purpose-built, kind of the new condo-looking ones as well. Those are included in the primary. Secondary market is us. So this is mom and pop investors and what we're renting for. So this is a combined rents. So we're now looking at an average of $2,326. So about like $80 off the average that we were pre-pandemic. Also very interestingly is kind of the year over year change that we're seeing in rents. I'd say that because this is year over year, it grabs it kind of from I would say the worst part of where we were seeing rents, but it's pretty near the low. So don't expect that your rents are going to go up 27% next year. But what this really demonstrates is a pretty broad recovery of rents across the board. I think what's interesting too is where rents haven't recovered. So if you are, you follow us, we're like pretty, and I think Matt even has it in a slide somewhere, but there's very particular neighborhoods that we invest in. Somebody asked about Willowdale in the chat, and I responded. We don't hate Willowdale. I actually have a house there, but it's not a great investment property, to be very frank. Like I wouldn't go rebuy in Willowdale. I have it already, so I'm not going to divest that particular one.
It was his primary residence before. It
was a primary residence, exactly, and it became an investment property. So if you look here, where rents have recovered, almost perfectly matches up with the areas we tell people to invest in. And the areas that haven't recovered are the areas that we tell people are not quite desirable to invest in. So, pat ourselves in the back, but it's a little bit of redemption on why we invest in these markets. We know that they are hit our tenant profile, our young professional tenant profile. They're close to public transit. So that really matters, right? There is a bit of a return to the office, and people are scrambling to come back into the city for those that have to come back. And I do see the future being some sort of mix between coming into the office occasionally, maybe 1 or 2 days, and working from home the rest. I think there will be some places, there will be some industries. I think banking may be one of those where people are expected to come back in. My friends who are in, M&A banking, kind of the banking bros, they're all expected to be back in the office now. But I think for the majority of folks, there will be some sort of hybrid, and those folks are coming back into the city. They never really left, but they're coming closer now again for better commute times. And this data certainly supports that. Next slide. Oh, this is your slide, Matt.
Oops. Oh, shoot. What was I supposed to talk about? Okay. What does it all mean for Toronto as a whole? Okay. Have the fundamentals changed in Toronto? This is essentially what we were talking about, right? Okay, we don't really need to talk about this. I've been talking about this all along. But just as an example, there's an article here talking about how Toronto is Silicon Valley North, right? Like, we know this. Google's, the Intels, the Microsofts, they're all coming here. And it's not without good reason, right? So the point here is keep calm, keep perspective. Our only job as real estate investors is to adapt to changes in the market. Yep. So this is what Ming was talking about. So this is this. If you're an old time Volition client or a meetup participant, a meetup attendee, you'll know that this used to be drawn in Microsoft Paint. It is updated for the 21st century now. Thank you very much. And so anyway, just to give you an idea, this is really the Rosetta Stone. This investment heat map is the Rosetta Stone that unlocks the mystery of where to invest in Toronto. So Trinity Bellwoods is in there, Simon. Thank you. So areas still do make sense in Toronto. Not all of them. Willowdale, no, right? So to that point. But there are a bunch of areas. We've decoded it, we've deciphered it, we've distilled it down. We know where to go. Okay. This is you. Yep.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, let's see, where are we here? Can you show the whole slide? Okay, so what we want to do is translate this into what it means in terms of action, right? Kind of, if you're thinking about getting into investing at this point, or you're thinking about selling an investment property or a regular property, what does that mean? So as I mentioned before, the shift has really been from what I'll call fighting for scraps to having some choice. We're able to actually get into and have a chance at some of the best properties. And what I mean by that is properties that not only hit all our fundamentals of tenant profile, public transit access, like those kind of things. We're also getting to properties that have development potential, right? So ones that we can, turn into legal 4, legal 5, add laneway, add garden. Before, the competition for these kind of properties that had all that potential was just absolutely intense. And a lot of time we couldn't get into them because our economics are different from, like, let's say, a developer's economics. If we're going up against a GC or somebody that has, like, a development background, their cost structure is going to be less than ours, unless you're a GC yourself, right? But now we have more of a chance at those properties. We just put an offer on one. It didn't go through because the seller decided not to sell, but just yesterday, and that property has like fourplex potential, has laneway suite potential. Like we could even maybe do 5 units within that building. We're talking about like $10,000 to $12,000 post renovation rents on that property. So. And that's not including the laneway. Add the laneway, we're adding, another $3,000 to $4,000 in rent for the laneway. So it's before that there would have been 10 offers and then one guy putting in 200, 300,000 beyond that. But now we actually have a chance at that stuff. So that's the big thing that's actually happening right now. While average prices have come down, as I mentioned, it's not the massive price decreases I think buyers are hoping for. It is more like maybe a 5% at most price correction. But realistically speaking, it translates to like maybe a $30,000, maybe a $50,000 price difference from what the peak kind of towards January, February of this year. The other point that I want to make, and I think it's really needs to be understood, is things don't shift to become a buyer's market without reason, right? I think a lot of times we see this kind of shift towards the buyer's market. If you use House Sigma or something, that little needle is going from red seller's market to shifting over to a buyer's market right now. But it is not without increased risk and difficulty for a buyer. Right? If it was really easy to buy and you knew for sure that the market was going to be stable over the next year or two, and the interest rates, you didn't have to worry about them because you're cash flowing. What challenge is there being a buyer, right? It's a seller's market when that happens, right? When interest rates are low, therefore it's attainable for a lot of people. When rents are, flying through the roof, when prices are going up, you can be a crappy investor and still do really well. So therefore it's a seller's market, right? There's no risk for a buyer other than having the money. Now it's a more difficult market. And because it's a more difficult market, the risk has shifted and it's become a buyer's market. I think there's a misconception that you can have a buyer's market and it still be easy. No, it's only becomes a buyer's market because it has become tougher to sell a property. It's not as easy anymore, right? It's not as easy for a buyer to acquire. So I hope that makes sense for everybody.
It's very much a contrarian view to the popular opinion, right? You'd think buyer's market, that means it's easier for me as a buyer, it's less risk for me as a buyer. Ming's saying the complete polar opposite. Actually, it's harder for you. It's more risky for you. And the reason is because, like he said, if prices are on the rise, rents are on the rise, all you need to do is secure a property and you'll be fine, right? There's no risk because it's going to keep on going. But it's only when it's shifted to a buyer's market, people think, oh, this is it's easier as a buyer. It's actually harder as a buyer. Yeah. So anyway, it may be easier to acquire a property, and I think that's kind of the major point. If you're a buyer, be taking advantage of the availability now, less competition, stuff like that. That's the reason you want to be taking advantage of a buyer's market.
Next slide, please.
Okay.
So here, next thing is, the fundamentals matter more than ever. And what I mean by this is, let's say you are looking at a property that can be neutral cash flow. If you are betting that rents will rise over time, that you've got the right tenant profile that turns over. And if you are buying in a neighborhood which attracts, an older demographic, which tends to rent and stay there a longer time, you're not going to get that turnover. And therefore, you're not going to realize an increase in rents because they're going to be stuck there. So it's really important to follow some of the fundamentals we talk about to attract the right tenant profiles. That way you actually can realize some of these things, because average rent prices will rise. But what does that mean for you if you've got a tenant who's not moving out, right? You actually need a place that attracts the millennial tenant profile, people in their 20s. I don't want to use millennials, they're all older now. People in their 20s, maybe into early 30s, where their lives are inherently more transient, right? Because then they are actually turning over. They've got roommates, they've got girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it happens to be, and they're not staying in a place from 19 years old to they're 40 years old. Like, that does not happen when you're 20 years old, right? You are moving a lot more. But you have to be in those neighborhoods. Like Simon's, actually, Trinity Bellwoods is a perfect example of a neighborhood which attracts that tenant profile. Yes, you have older people there, but older people aren't going to live in Oakdale or somewhere further out like that. That's not what is attracting 20-year-olds right now. Anyway, fundamentals more than ever. Future value. That's another opportunity that we have right now, which we don't always have. At the beginning of the year, a lot of times we have to give up potential future value for the numbers to make sense on the current property. Now we have a chance for numbers to make sense on the current property. Maybe it's very tight, but we can actually buy properties with future value, potential laneway, potential garden, top-ups, multiple units, things like that. They're a little easier to come by. I've already mentioned buying areas of strategically on rising rents. My favorite saying, and I say this a lot, but it is not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. None of us are going to get it right. I bought an investment property March 2017. The market collapsed end of March 2017, right? And I've been investing for 17 years at that point. I have a crap ton of experience. I can't time the market, but I know if I'm in a good area, and that's a fantastic area I bought in, it just takes time. Cash flow, wait a couple of years out, and now I've well exceeded my 2017 purchase price, that property is probably about 700,000 or 800,000 now past the previous peak that it was at. So this is what I mean about you can't time it. Make sure that you're able to hold it. That's really important. So you can realize equity over time. If cash flow is a struggle, let's say you find a perfect property, but cash flow is a struggle because, you know, at traditional math of, you know, 80% down, current interest rates works out, I don't know, minus 200, minus 300, but it's still a good property. We have some advanced strategies later, changing your financing models, for example. So that way you're able to cash flow short term and then move back to a traditional, let's say 80-20 LT loan to value. Last thing is beware. No, you know, I work with a ton of experienced investors, but make sure you know that your mortgage qualification has been reduced now, right? From the increase in interest rates. How much is that? And what are the terms around that? Because everybody's got kind of expiries coming up on pre-approvals. That's what's actually causing the market rush right now, is people trying to get in before that. But make sure you understand all those terms. And what happens if you miss that? What does the next round look like? Have a backup strategy. I'll give you an example. I have a client right now. Let's say he's you know, kind of pre-qualified at 2.5. That expiry is going to end soon. So what are we going to do after that expiry comes up? Instead of going whole hog and going in for another 5-year fixed term, he's looking at, you know, variable, short term, 2-year fixed, something which is a slight, you know, smaller increase, so it's not so cash flow impacting, still allows him to secure a good property. And then in 2 years' time, you know, hopefully rents will have caught up by then, and then allows him to do new financing. Right. Next slide.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
When they got his first. So anyway, I just want to put this out there for context as well, because I feel like there is a lot of nerves around interest rates. And I don't want to discount that, because my nerves around interest rates are not around the investment properties. When we talk about, Matt mentioned, and I kind of interjected when he talked about influencers and fundamentals. The scary part for me, and should be for anybody, is when influencers change the fundamentals, right? Because an influencer can be strong enough, or like a policy, for example, can change a fundamental because it impacts population. Interest rates can be scary if they cause a recession, right? If you looked at our what causes the growth of the real estate market, at the very bottom is GDP growth, right? That does matter. If rates go too fast and they cause a recession, and you know then GDP is shrinking, yeah, that's a fundamental. And so that's what I want to, you know, kind of impart when we're looking at these things. The interest rate itself on the actual investment property is not a fundamental, but interest rates to change the economic picture of the country, yes. If they do it too fast, they do it too much, and we spiral into recession, doesn't matter what you're invested in. We're all going to have problems. Real estate, stocks, your job, everything's up for grabs at that point, right? But that's the reality of recession if we get that far. I put this in for context, though, because our high interest rates, or our rising interest rates now, are still incredibly low. You know, I just took a nice 20-year shot. I didn't realize 2001 was this expensive. Thank God I got a variable mortgage. But this is what I ended up acquiring, right? It was like just under 6%.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay, can you just show the whole thing? So I'm considering selling. First of all, why? Like, why are you selling in this market? What is it? How does it help you achieve your goals? And I really think this is where advisory is very helpful, because it may make sense if you're trying to move up the property ladder. We have a lot of clients who started in condos, for example, moved from condos into triplex that they lived in or a duplex that they lived in, and then took that property, refinanced it, bought another one, lived in that. Like sometimes it makes sense to sell along the way to get you to your end goal. That's what advisors use for. Take advantage of it. You won't get this anywhere else, and you certainly won't get it for free. This is something that we do provide the investment community. Sign up for it. Ask these kind of questions, right? This is really where advisory is useful. Next thing is the market itself, especially like I'll call it a hyper-local market. Condos are a perfect example. I can be in one condo building right now where properties are just sitting on the market for days and days, and literally go to the condo next door and that same thing is not happening. So in this particular market, it's really important to know what's happening on your street, in your building, to come up with the right strategy, because it may not be offer nights. It may be holding out. We may not do staging because it gets too expensive over time, and this is going to be a longer sell. All these things have to be really considered right now if you are looking to sell. Let's get to the point of sell. Marketing for the right person is really key. I came from a showing earlier today with a client. It's a straight up investment property, and some of the really key stuff that I was asking, the selling agent didn't know, and you have to, right? I need to know if the right of way is established so I can build a laneway suite. Otherwise, I'm not going to buy this place, and any other investor who understands these things is not going to buy your place either. If we're on the listing side, I would have said, spend the $3,000, get a damn survey, because that's going to mean another $50,000 in the sale, or $100,000 in the sale of this place, because you can confidently say, here's a survey, it is done this week, and now go build your laneway house, but give me a $100,000 premium because I've proved it for you, right? Like this kind of stuff is what we advise people on, and it shocks me that this is not done when we're trying to buy, when people are trying to sell to us. Anyway, so understand who your end user, who you're trying to sell to, an investor, an end user. If it's an end user, like who's that target demographic? Families, entry-level families. Not renovating that kitchen is a perfect example that we talked about earlier, but understanding the demographic who you're trying to sell to. And we can help answer questions like, should you use open bidding? Short answer is, I don't really think it's worth it, but let's keep going to the next slide. So timing. I know I sound a bit like a hypocrite because I just said it's about time in the market, not timing the market. And I still truly believe that. But divesting is different from investing. And it's not like when you're buying, you've got a little bit of flexibility on timing, right? If your search takes 1 week, if it takes a couple of months, so be it. You're not being forced to buy, there's no gun to your head to buy now. But when you're selling, it's not as easy, right? You have a tenant or you're taking the funds and putting it to something else. You kind of have to pick a rough date and work towards that. So if you are, because you kind of have to set a time, so you have to work with timing, what do you do? One thing we'd highly suggest is working with market influencers, right? Use them to your advantage, right? We know that before rate increases, like one coming up on June 1st, the market picks up. Right now, people are trying to buy before their pre-qualification runs out, before they have to pay another potentially 1% on their mortgage. So there's a scramble. If you're selling, like if you're thinking of selling, like now is actually right now is really a really good time to catch that, because there's this rush before this June 1st rate increase. Another suggestion in this kind of market, really make sure that you're making a good first impression. I sound like an old fuddy-duddy saying this, but we are in the internet age. And if you're not getting good pictures and a good online presence for your listing, you're losing people immediately. Nobody goes to a property anymore without having researched the crap out of it online, gone through the virtual tours, looked at the floor plans. And if you're listing is, this goes for rentals too, guys. If your listing is nothing more than a couple of shots off your cell phone, it's not going to compete these days. You know, not just good photography, have the other things in there too. Staging, virtual staging, floor plans. Like they're like $100. Somebody comes in, does it for you. Get that stuff in there. Get as much of the information as you can online these days. And if you're worried about it scaring people off, they're not going to be interested anyway after they've come to your place, right? So if your place is really small and you know, your floor plan is just going to give it away, then when they get there, they're not being fooled either, right? Last thing is creative deal making. Matt talked through this earlier, but now is an opportunity to use creative deal making. Assignments are another perfect example where we can structure deals where you don't have to have this massive down payment in order to take over an assignment. We can break up payments over time. So you can take one initial payment, and then upon closing, when the buyer gets their financing, we can get it directly from the bank and take the rest. And because our seller has flexibility, we actually get a higher price. Things like that. Creative deal making really makes a difference in this kind of market. Next slide. Advisory. I don't know if I mentioned it. Please take advantage of it. I think it's great.
All right, good stuff. So we have not even reached this was Flo's worst nightmare. It's 9 o'clock and we're getting into only now into one big section. So I'll take stock here. We have a couple options. I can just continue and not look at the clock. I can literally not present this and leave it till June. What would you guys like? Okay, Ling says keep going. Ida says keep going.
Just so I think there's probably a good 30 minutes to go through some of these more advanced things.
All
so
right.
it is structuring your financing to improve cash flows. Tips and tricks on like increasing traffic to get more people there to get better rents. Okay, let's try to get.
I mean, at the very least, this is a virtual meetup, so just drop off. I won't be offended. If you walked out the door and in person, I would be offended, but that's a different story. All right.
I'll try to get it at 9:30 though.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you okay if we just do a quick poll, Matt?
Sure.
Just get the creative juices flowing here. So
All
just
right.
quick couple questions. And I'm launching. If you guys could answer that'd be great.
Oh, speaking of which, I have hated presenting on Zoom for the past 2.5 years. I would love to do an in-person meetup. I just want to get a sense of if others would as well. So yeah, if you want to be in person, let me know. Let us know.
Yeah.
And let's know what to talk about too. I literally have to come up with topics and then come up with material for it. If I knew in advance what you wanted, that would help a lot.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's keep going, Matt. So
All right. Yeah. So without trying to sound like Captain Obvious, really, there are 4 different ways to approach this. Increasing traffic is really about marketing. Increase income, decrease expenses, and rethink your financing. The point here is that we here in Toronto have been very spoiled over the past many years. We could swing a dead. We didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to put in any effort, and our places would fly off the shelves as landlords, right? We'd have a lineup of people out the door wanting our place. It's not quite like that anymore, right? So you have to put in the extra effort, and that extra 10% is going to make all the difference, right? You have to be more active now. You have to be willing to put in the time and effort. So don't settle for average. Everything we're giving you here, $1.5 million triplex is going to get you $5,700. That's actually bull, right? The reality is you could do much better. We might project it like that, but when you operate it, you yourself can do much better. right? So bear with us if some of this stuff is obvious. There's some really good stuff at the end. Okay. All right. All right. So number one, just like you have changing your mindset. When you're as a landlord trying to increase traffic, you've got a unit. You're trying to rent it out. You can do what you've always done, or you can change your mindset and you can do the extra 10%. Pretend you're a realtor. Pretend that you're showing this place like you're a realtor who's selling a house, right? So no longer is it just about throwing up an ad and hoping for the best, or leasing is that afterthought. Leasing is a core element of the success of the business, right? So more traffic, more interest, you can get more rent. Like, so can you get another $1,000? Can you get another $500 in rent for a unit? Probably not. Can you get $100 more? I've gotten $200 more than market. Recently, I just got something rented at $3,200 for a 2-bedroom when market dictated I should be only getting $3,000, right? You can do better than the market, the market averages. Photos are so incredibly important, as Ming was talking about. So a couple of things here. If you're a great photographer, then maybe you do it yourself. Don't just use your iPhone, right? Don't be stupid. Don't just use your iPhone. Hire professional photography. It is worth it for like roughly $200 at Toronto's rents. It's a great investment that you can continue to use on an ongoing basis. Wide angle is key, right? Use wide angle, but you need the angle and perspective distortion, you need to make sure that's get corrected. All of the stuff you don't need to worry about if you just hire. Filters to make it pop, don't overdo it though. The photographer we use, actually, this guy makes the place look way better in photos than even in real person. It looks nice in real person, but he makes them look amazing. Videography. So here, let me share some stuff.
Well, Matt's finding that quick tip then. If you're looking to get virtual staging, I saw somebody just popped it in the chat that they're a virtual stager. Virtual staging is not like what it used to be. If this is a rental property, it may be rented already. So how do you get virtual staging done? On your next turnover, when it's empty, go get pictures, professional pictures of the empty property, and then go get it virtual staged, right? It's cost effective. A renter is not going to expect actual staging there, but to be able to see it in the photos, and then go print out those photos and post them on the wall so people can see what they look like when they're entering the property.
Yeah. So I don't know. Can you see my screen? Am I still sharing? Can't tell.
No.
What do you see?
Nothing.
Jeez. Really? Okay. Let me try this again then. Okay. Here, so like this is an example of a professional photographer using wide angle, great shots, perspective distortion has been corrected, filters used ever so slightly in a very effective way, right? Great photos. Likewise, sorry, I had all these lines queued up. Videography. Right, this is a luxury home that we sold, so you know you may not go this far, but the aerial shots, right? And the last one I was going to show you was this. Can you see that? So this is called, what you get are these dollhouse views. It's almost like you're actually there, right? So this is called Matterport. It's a 3D technology, right? If you're this stuff, I think someone just said they literally do this, right? Was it Kaushik or something? This stuff sells. It's a big deal, right? So I wanted to give you. Sorry, go ahead.
Through COVID times, because people are still cautious of coming into properties if they don't have to. The more you can put online, the better.
Yeah. And floor plans for those 3D dollhouse views, you actually get them inherently because it's a camera you stick right in the middle, and it does like these 3D scans using like lasers and shit. So it's pretty cool, and you get the floor plans too. So do you want to open your mind to the possibilities that you can be using to increase traffic, which would then increase rents. Okay, so let me get back to the presentation. And we've all seen photos like this, right? This is not selling anything. All it's selling me on is how stupid you are. Okay, so staging. We talked about staging. So actual stellar staging, you might consider it. High-end rentals, we've seen it, we've done it. There's another alternative too. There's rental staging. It's not real beds and real sofas and stuff like that. What it is they use boxes and slip covers. So it's a lot cheaper. It doesn't quite look as great. I went looking through my old photos, my archives, trying to find it. I couldn't find it, but this was something I explored years ago. Disclaimer, I've never actually done it myself, but I did think it was an interesting option. And then Ming talked about virtual staging. So take a look at this. This is virtual staging. If you didn't look closely enough, you wouldn't know the difference. It's actually pretty good, right? Oops. Okay, so then where to list? Get it out on all channels. So this is where the 10% effort makes a difference. You might be used to using just Facebook or Marketplace or Kijiji or Craigslist or whatever you used to use. Put in the extra effort now. Find all possible sources and get out on them. And then think more broadly. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Look down here. I managed to finagle my way into the University of Toronto Medical School Facebook group where I literally posted this, and I found someone. And
tomorrow, Matt's not going to be in the University of Toronto.
So I know someone who's in that med school class is now going to report me and kick me out. But I found someone on this. I finagled my way in there, and I catered my ad to them. I basically had, I'm going to get to it, but basically I had Google Maps showing them how far they were to their classes, how far they were to the hospitals. I had catered to them. Hospital listing services, nurses, executive placement agencies. This one is one that we know and we worked with, Rented Furnished. I don't know, Instagram group, just get creative. Sign on your lawn, use tech, QR codes, virtual tours, all that stuff, right? Know your tenant profile. We know ours. It's professional millennials. We cater to them. And then other listing services, Airbnb, HomeAway. Like if that's your jam, go for it. Make sure that you're staying current. Repost, renew your ads up on Kijiji and Craigslist and so forth. Don't let it go stale. Once they go stale, no one's going to find you. And just know that anything over $2,400, MLS is an important source, an important place to use. Okay. Increase traffic. Okay. Write better copy. So many ads I see suck. You have the world is your oyster. You can make this thing sound fantastic. You can cater to the tenant demographics needs and wants. Think benefits. So benefits is painting the story. It's not for one gigabyte hard drive space. It's 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? So not features. We're not talking about 3,000 square feet and 3 baths and 10-minute drive to store and stainless steel plant. That's not hitting home. What's hitting home is, like, for example, imagine yourself sipping a glass of wine while overlooking. This was that luxury property that we sold. While overlooking the lush scenic forest, tranquility, serenity, right? Like those are the types of things that sell. Google Maps. So connect the dots for the tenants, paint the picture for them, do the work for them, make it stupidly easy for the tenant to decide to come see your unit, right? Otherwise, you're depending on them to have to figure out, okay, you give them the address or the neighborhood or something, and they're like, okay, if they don't know that neighborhood extremely well, then they're like, okay, how far is this from the subway? And then they've got to Google it. What's the closest the grocery store? They got to Google it. How far is it from LCBO? They got to Google it. How far is the nearest coffee shop, yoga studio, whatever? Do it for them. That's actually what this is.
My video from one of my rental properties literally has the cameraman walking from the subway to the front of the house. So people can just watch it. It's sped up, but they know exactly, it's going to take me 300 steps to get to the subway every day.
Yeah, for sure. And then the amenities here. So all the cool stuff. So this happens to be a rental property that I have. And I mapped out all the cool stuff, all the sushi restaurants, all the coffee shops, the LCBO, the beer store, the grocery store, the organic grocery store, the yoga studios, the whatever, like all the stuff that I know that my tenants want, I put it here and I put a link to it. So these guys, when they're looking at this listing, they're like, okay, I know there's so much around there. I'm totally into this. I'm going to come see this place. Same thing for Google Maps in terms of mapping it out to where those people work. We know our tenant profile works in downtown Toronto, so they're going to be using transit, either subway or streetcar, to get to downtown Toronto, right? When I was looking at the hospitals, I mapped out all the hospitals. That's what this is. Literally all the hospitals in downtown, I mapped out for them, right? So make it stupidly easy for them. Okay. And then walk score. Use walk score, use transit score. People pay attention to this stuff now. Cool. Next. All right. So what's this?
We have 15 minutes.
Okay. Make it easier for tenants to book now, right? Before, I used to throw up all these barriers because I would be inundated with so many requests that I would make it really tough for them to come for a showing. I would do a pre-screening form. I would make sure that they answer a whole bunch of questions and all this stuff before I let them come see the place. Can't do that now, right? Beggars can't be choosers. Not that we're beggars, but the idea is lower those barriers of entry now. Be responsive. These guys now with Facebook, they're applying for like 30 different units all at the same time. They don't even remember which one's yours. So be responsive too. Be engaged. During the showing, you're a salesperson now. Don't just open the door and let them walk around. Be like an agent. Highlight the features. Talk about the benefits. Nest thermostat. Being able to control when you're out, right? These smart locks, you don't even need to unlock your door. The lock will sense when your phone's nearby and it'll unlock for you. Like stuff like that. Feature sheets. So take a look. Like this is obviously super high end, but this is a feature sheet that we did for a property where it's got like these premium acetate paper, and it was a feature booklet. It wasn't just a feature sheet. Like just, you don't need all that necessarily, but print a feature sheet. The prospect is looking at your place and a dozen others. They're not going to remember your place, right? If there's kind of a guiding principle, it's really around this. It's to appeal to all the senses for the tenant. Lights on. The place looks better when the lights are on. Make the place sparkle. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it's tidy. Make sure it's professionally cleaned. Make sure it smells nice. You can use candles, diffusers. If it's loud, and I do this actually, because my unit's on a loud street, I actually play gentle music during the showing. Right, to distract them from listening for the traffic out on the street. That kind of stuff. Think about virtual tours. Think about open houses on Zoom. Use technology to your advantage. Current tenants, if they're not cooperative, if they're messy, the place isn't tidy, they're not giving you good hours to do showings, get them on your side. You can bribe them. You can dangle a carrot, Tim Hortons gift card, something of the sort. Don't give it to them yet. Dangle the carrot. So once you get the behaviors you're intending, once you get the outcomes you're intending, then you can give them the reward, right? Create the illusion of demand. You can do slightly overlapping showing times, open houses, COVID notwithstanding, all that stuff, right? Okay, and then application process. play one tenant off the other. Maybe you can get a bidding war. This is very, very doable in Toronto. Come up with a story. Oh, the other tenant's willing to offer more, but I actually like you better. That kind of stuff, right? DocuSign. Use DocuSign. Make it easy for the tenant. Okay, so increasing income. So we're going to break this into a couple of different areas, but generally speaking, CapEx investments that can provide ongoing benefit on the revenue side. Renovations, that's an easy thing, right? Generally speaking, if you can get about $500 more in rent, it's worth spending actually up to $100,000. I have the math to back it up. It's based on cap rates. It's based on net operating income. But generally speaking, getting higher rents drastically improve your property value. So it's worth it. So do it. It's worth it. You could furnish
laundry, adding dedicated laundry if it's not already there in the unit.
Oh, I know
Squeezing
about that.
a powder room if you can is another big one that will increase your rents. Improving kitchens, bathrooms, laundry.
Cool, thanks. Furnishing. So not that you're necessarily going to fully furnish the place. You could, if that's part of your business model. But think about certain things that add outsized value. So for example, a flat screen TV, a 55-inch, you get for like $400 now, $400. Some speakers, throw it up on the wall, mount it. You can get a Fire Stick, Fire TV Stick, or Google Chromecast. Maybe that's like deck furniture. Maybe that's a Weber barbecue. I'll get to the TV stuff in a bit too. Functional benefits for the tenants. We talked about smart locks, smart thermostats, ring alarm systems. That's not even very expensive, but imagine being able to present that to the tenant. That's very few places have that. Bike lock stands, or I don't even know what you call them. This was mentioned in our inner circle a few months ago. They were talking about the best bike stands or something like that, so their tenants can lock their bikes. And then some bigger stuff too, build or densify. So we talked about this before. Maybe it's fourplexes. Maybe you create a duplex or separate out the basement suite from the main floor. Maybe you build a laneway suite. So just get some financials on the laneway suite. If you can do a $500,000 or $600,000 build, you can get, under the right circumstances, you can get $35,000 to $4,000 in rent, which is astonishing. Okay, and then let's get to some of this. OpEx investments, add additional services that are of value. So internet is a big one. So we'll get to this in a sec, but we have a deal for about $60. You can get 5 gigabit internet, which normally costs $100. What's that?
We're not resellers.
We're not resellers. We're going to give you the contact of someone who can give this deal. But basically, buy it once, collect it 3 to 4 times. So if it's worth $125, you could charge $75 per unit, for example, include in the rent and boost the rents or whatever, right? You can net more. Not necessarily going to condone all of this, but there's IPTV subscriptions you can get for $8 that give you thousands of channels, Netflix, and there's cheaper ways to get Netflix. Not gonna go into that any great detail though. Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, music services, Spotify, whatever, right? You can experiment, put it directly on the TV or the box so the tenant can't share it. Use your imagination. Separate it out. So if you've got parking, you could rent it out to someone not in the house and actually get more. I've done this. I could have got $75 or $80 to the tenant in the house, or I could get $125 to $150 outside to someone who doesn't live in the house because their work was nearby. Things like that, right? Rent out the garage as a workspace rather than as a garage. If it's insulated and has electrical. I know someone who rented a garage for $450. It was insane. Rent storage separately or lockers. Do your rent increases. So if you've been a lazy landlord, this is an easy way to boost your rents, right? Get those in. It takes 3 months, 90 days for it to kick in. So do it now. Coin op, laundry, so additional revenue if it works. If you're in an apartment building or mixed use residential commercial, you could put a sign on top of it for additional revenue. Cell phone tower. This is a fun one. If there's a Bell telephone pole in your backyard and they don't have an easement on your title, meaning that they don't have any right to do it, you can call them up and tell them, get it out of my backyard. They're not going to want to move it because that means they have to move it somewhere else, and it's a big expense for them. I've heard of people scoring windfalls of 10, 15, 20, 25 grand under certain circumstances from Bell in either cash or improvements to the property, because Bell doesn't actually want to move it. Bell has to figure something else out. They have to move it to your neighbor and then incentivize your neighbor, right? So that's a pretty cool one. So that's what this is right here. And funny enough, I literally have a Bell telephone pole, and I'm going to be doing this pretty soon because I want to build a laneway suite or garden suite there, and it's blocking me. But furnished rental. So if you do a furnished rental, we all know you can't do a security deposit here in Toronto, right? You can't do a security deposit on the unit. You can do a chattels deposit. What's chattels? Chattels are your furnishings. You can get a deposit for the furnishings, not the unit itself. It effectively operates in the same way. It's not really revenue, it's deposits, but it's additional money in your bank account. And it's security that they're going to keep the place nice, right? If you've got nothing, then it's no holds bar. We don't know. But if you've got something, chances are they're going to take care of the place. Okay. And then run it differently. So if you think of it this way, this is the way we think about it. Real estate is like a computer. The actual property itself is the hardware. What you do with it, that's like the software. How you operate it, how you run it, that's the software. You can do it differently than everyone else. You can get a different result. That thing can be house hacking. Maybe it's not renting the entire unit out. Maybe it's renting out room by room, but not making it a room and house. That's crossing the line, right? You're crossing the line to something else that's very dangerous. So don't do that. But renting out two separate roommates within one unit, yeah, that's doable, right? Under one lease. Fully furnished rental, we talked about. Shorter term rentals, could be STRs if you want, executive rentals, all the stuff. Okay, so we talked about a bunch of this stuff. So I found a small business rep that is going to offer a 3-year contract for Bell Fiber Internet. Email us if you are interested, and I'll share the contact details with you. Right? Okay, this is super boring stuff, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this whole idea here is manage it better, manage it more tightly, go over your bills, try to reduce your property taxes if there's been a reassessment, try to get government rebates for certain things like insulation and furnaces. This is not very interesting stuff. If you want, you can come back to this later. But the idea, one thing I want to point out is 0% vacancy should be your goal. Right. So in Toronto, even in a COVID era, we should not be experiencing vacancy. Okay. For new acquisitions, we're used to 20% down payment. We're used to it. That has not been the norm historically, though. Historically, it was 25% plus. In certain instances, it was closer to 50%. Right. We're just used to 20% now. 25% may mean the difference between cash flow negative and cash flow positive property then. Putting more down payment, when rents rise again, you can take it out. So make sure, if you do this, make sure you get the full 80% LTV, just split into a 75% mortgage and a 5% undrawn HELOC, right? So that way you can draw it out and you can put it back anytime you want. Next one's fun. It's funny. Just get higher rents. It's that easy. More realistically, consider areas with lower pricing. So that would be these blue areas. So a lot of our clients, 90 to 95% of our clients end up in the red areas because those are A to A plus areas. But maybe you need to consider an A minus or a B plus area. Like that's what these blue areas are. Okay. Build laneway suites or buy with laneway suite potential. If you buy with laneway suite potential, it's actually going to put you even into more cash flow negative territory if you don't build it, because you pay a huge premium for it. But again, $500,000 to $600,000 build yields a crap ton of rent. So it's a great way to boost cash flow. Or you could do renovations upon acquisition and just not actually refinance it. It doesn't necessarily lead to highest ROI on a percentage basis, but it can help with cash flow. Okay, so let's get to this. This is something I actually want to communicate to you. I think is really important. Financing. Okay, so you can utilize this technique that I'm going to show you to boost your cash flow on a regular triplex by $1,000. How? Let's take a look. Scenario A, this is regular Joe who takes a normal 80% loan to value mortgage at a normal today interest rate, right? What does he get? $4,900 mortgage, and he gets cash flow negative, $250. This is essentially the scenario that I pointed out during the sensitivity analysis. Scenario B, this guy, sophisticated investor, gets a 65% LTV HELOC, higher interest rate, prime plus half, instead of prime minus half or whatever, and a mortgage that's 15% LTV. If you add them up, it's still 80% loan to value, 20% down payment, right? But the overall financing for this is $3,900 instead of $4,900. This cash flow is $750. He boosted rents, he boosted cash flow by $1,000 just by being strategic with his financing, right? So boom, that's what you do. Pros, massive cash flow booster. Solves the problem of being able to hold the property for the long term, which we all know is the key to success. Tons of flexibility. You can pay down the HELOC using the additional cash flow and then redraw it when required. So you get the cash flow, you can put it back into the HELOC, so you reduce your financing charges, and then draw it when you need it. Rainy day, furnace goes, whatever, right? Cons. You're not actually paying down principal on that HELOC portion, so you don't own more of the property over time, just on the small mortgage portion. Ever so slight, lower ROI due to the higher interest rate. Okay. Doesn't work for B lenders because the HELOC rates for B lenders are too high. Don't pay down the mortgage principal. If you do this, pay it down on the HELOC side because you're maxed out at 65% loan to value on the HELOC. You can't go higher than that. So if you pay down the mortgage, you're not going to be able to access that equity again. Good for temporary renos when trying to minimize outflow. Hugo says there's actually one lender that'll go up to 80% loan to value, but don't quote me on that. Go check it out with Hugo. Hugo is our financing guy. Let us know if you need an intro. Okay, next one, re-amortize mortgages back up to 30 years. So this assumes you owned it for a couple of years already. Let's say you owned it for 5 years. Let's say you bought it for 1.2, it's worth 1.5 now, and it's the same, basically the same triplex, right? Your initial mortgage would have been $960. You paid down 13% of the principal over 5 years. Okay, so let's take a look. If I was normal Joe who just renewed my mortgage, didn't really know much about real estate, whatever, this is what would be happening right now, right? I'd be getting about $700 of cash flow. But since I'm sophisticated, I re-amortize my mortgage back out to 30 years. It's a 25-year mortgage at this point. Oh, shoot. Sorry, this is a typo. This one should be 30 years. Scenario B should be 30-year. Scenario A is a 25-year mortgage. Scenario B is now a 30-year mortgage. There's a typo. But that boosts my cash flow by another almost $500. Right? So again, these are the mechanisms we can use when we understand how real estate builds wealth. We understand we can play with all these levers, and then some other regular stuff. There's one lender, there may be others that has this: fixed payments for variable rate mortgages. Fixed payments. So we all think, oh, interest rates are going up. Rate hike, Bank of Canada rate hike, and all this stuff, that's going to mean higher payments for my mortgage, right? Not always. In certain instances with the certain lenders, I think TD is one of them, we actually can do fixed payments It just means that the ratio of interest to principal changes. The payment's still the same. The ratio, you pay more in interest essentially. This will continue until you hit the trigger rate, right? So this is very much doable under the right circumstances. And then some other rate stuff. So generally, variable has always been the better choice. Some people are getting fixed right now, and because they're getting good deals on them. Most people are getting prime plus prime minus half. So like around 2.7 is what most people are getting on variable. Okay, and then keep in mind rate hike in June, possible rate hike. So this is obviously a very boring section. But the idea here is like the intention for this will expand your mind and change your mindset. So we can go, oh my God, the market, and be a victim, or we can take the reins, we can take control, we can realize certain things are within our control, and we can do better. Right? More efforts required, yes, but real estate was never actually a passive investment, contrary to popular belief. Right? This is the kind of stuff we talk about all day long in our Volition inner circle. So if you want to become a client, you'll get access to that. So the question really is, how do you get higher than average rents? What do you do? Drop your tips and tricks into the chat box. Don't be mean, be above average. So anyway, so what do you do? What do you do with all this now? So what you do, sign up for advisory. I think Alikhan's gonna drop this in the chat. But sign up for advisory. This really is going to be your competitive advantage, right? Sign up for advisory, come prepared, and then we can help you figure out where you want to go, how you want to get there, how you can get there, help you build a plan to get there, right? And then what's step number 2? Let's attend the next meetup. Oh, this date's wrong. I think it's June something. But RSVP for our next meetup, and let us know. I think Alikhan already did this, but let us know what you want to learn about. We come up with different topics and materials for them, but we're really just guessing at the end of the day. We want you to tell us what you want to learn about, and then we'll help address those things. So just as a quick recap, next month we're going to be talking about this thing, real estate cycle. So where Toronto is in the real estate cycle. So who can do it? You can do it. We think we can help you. We can help you along your journey. So who's still around?
Well, first, thanks everybody for sticking around. I know there's a lot of stuff for us to go through, but hopefully everybody found that helpful. We're gonna stay on the line for a little bit. If you have any questions, drop in the chat, unmute yourself. I'm good for probably another 10-15 minutes, and then I've got to drop. But thanks again, everybody, for coming out tonight.
Whoa, I just looked. There's 62 messages that showed up on my chat. Was there any good ones? Any good questions? Any good comments?
Stuff, because we don't have an opportunity in the small amount of time to dive deep on any of these things.
Well, this is the time to unmute yourself if you got something.
Information.
Was this overload?
Hey, Matt. Hey, Ming. Quick question. First off, damn, this was my first event with you guys, and damn, like very mind blowing. Like a lot of good insights, a lot of value. Question for both of you, whoever wants to answer it. Specific, I think there was a slide that you guys talked about regarding how the change in the policies when it comes to the supply of rental housing. You guys don't necessarily see that having a major impact on the rental prices specifically, right? I'd like to just know, like, specifically, like a little bit more about that, right? Because from my perspective too, like I feel like if we do have an overload of rental available inventory, it should technically drive down prices, shouldn't it?
Yes. So I'll answer this. It's like one of my favorite topics. So, absolutely, you're correct. Real estate's pretty simple in that way. It's a supply demand thing. But we're so off right now that it could, but they've got a long way to go before it actually makes an impact. To give you some high-level numbers, roughly, immigration into Canada right now, this is like, refugees, also, straight immigration, is anywhere between about 300 to 400,000 a year. right? That's a lot of people coming into the country. About 35% end up in the GTA, right? So still a very large number coming in here per year. Our housing starts, the highest number of the record housing starts, I think, was 2021 in applications. It was like 40,000 housing starts. So we're not, and that was the record. That was the most ever in our history. Before that, it was pretty much around 10,000, maybe 15,000 housing starts per year. And we were doing that for 10 years. So we've been creating this deficit between how much we're putting on the market and how many people we're letting into the country. I'm clearly an immigrant. I'm from an immigrant family. I'm not anti-immigration, but and I think it's a very un-Canadian thing to say we're going to close our immigration doors. But the reality is, when the more people that are coming in, you have to house them, but we're not even coming close to the amount of housing we need. Housing starts across Canada are not 400,000. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we're well below that. And we've been below year after year after year. So yes, policy needs to catch up, actually, because there is a massive unaffordability problem in the city. But policy needs to catch up, but it is a long way out. The other thing is starts that are useful. If I am going to build a bunch of single family homes in a field in Stouffville, it's not really useful. I hope you don't live out in Stouffville, but just for example, like that's not particularly useful when people are either working in the city, or when they come to the country or for the first time, they know Toronto, right? Like my parents, when they came to Canada, knew Calgary and they knew Toronto. That was it. And yes, it's not that Stouffville's a bad place to live, but they're not looking there when they first come to the country, when they're first looking to rent. They're looking in only the places they've heard of before, right? So that housing availability actually needs to be in the urban centers. And it's, that 40,000 is spread across the GTA. So you're right. It should make an impact, but it's not big enough. And, this is, the really left-wing folks who are saying, like, we're not doing enough. They're absolutely correct. If you really want to make a difference in housing availability, we should be talking about hundreds of thousands per year of properties coming on the market. But that we're not even close. We're like 10% of that.
So actually, just to add on to that, a couple of months ago, Ming and I were tapped by CMHC for our expertise and insights into the secondary suite housing rental market. And there's a mandate. I forget what was the number, Ming. They had a mandate or an intention to create, was it 200,000 units over the next, I don't know, decade or something like that. And like they don't even know where to start. This is CMHC.
These are the policymakers. They don't know what to do.
These are the policymakers. They're not the ones who are actually building. They're not the actual ones. But they're trying to figure out how to get financing into the hands of the right people who are building. So they tapped us because we obviously build them, right? And our clients build them. So they want to know, who are these people? What do they do? How much money do they need? Where do they get the equity? Where do they get the money? How many properties do they own? Are they normal homeowner?
An hour or two of us listing our grievances. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and then Ming and I were like, you need to get rid of XYZ, stupid committee of adjustments, stupid NIMBYism. One thing I was going to put in this presentation that I didn't was this whole Margaret Atwood thing. I won't get into that. But Margaret Atwood lives in the annex. I guess I am going to get into it. Margaret Atwood, who is supposed to be a patron of all the social injustice, she lives in the annex, and in her backyard there was supposed to be a development on the other side of hers on Davenport. She lives on Admiral. I'm like giving all this away. She lives on Admiral. The backside of her property is Davenport, and Davenport is going to put up a mid-rise building, and she opposed it. Mrs. Social Justice, Handmaid's Tale, everything, didn't want something obstructing her view. right? So like what we need to do is actually get rid of these types of policies, and this is where Toronto is eventually going. So when we talked about that a bit earlier, it was being able to build some of the stuff as of right, not having the social the neighborhood have any insight or any say into what it is that we want to do with our properties, stuff like that, and CMHC trying to figure out how to get financing in the hands of the right people to build this. Anyway, your point, the point being is that CMHC is trying to figure out how to build all these things and can't figure out how to help people build them. Not enough is being built. Not nearly enough for our rental supply, and not nearly enough. And if the other thing to think about is the yellow belt. So in Toronto, the yellow belt is the biggest problem. Essentially, single family homes, the homeowners don't want anything more than a single family home beside them, right? So
Ridiculous that we have
guys, sorry.
servicing these communities. Like nowhere else in the world do you have rapid transit only servicing single family homes. That's just unheard of, at least mid-rise, right? But the neighborhoods are so precious here, and so it's a combination of like crappy policy there, NIMBYism, and our public transit not allowing there to be densification further outside of the core, right? I don't love that I've got to invest in the core. I would love it if there was more places other than like 10 neighborhoods that made sense. But the fact is we don't have the transit to support it. We don't have the policy to support it.
So guys, this is perfect topic here. I'm right involved with this stuff about secondary suites and densification. So there's a problem in the city where basically anything for secondary suite that's not a bungalow with a basement secondary suite, it will go directly to committee of adjustments. So I'm not sure if you guys really know that. Basically, if you have anything like a duplex, you want to add something that's not like a basement secondary suite, at least in the East York, this area, the bylaws, it'll force it to go to committee of adjustments. So this is a problem. And it takes 6 months minimum to be able to get to a committee of adjustments. Yeah. So they want more densification, but everything that Matt and you're saying, it's going against all this NIMBYism. I'll give you an example. My neighbor across the street, literally across the street, was building something, and 55 neighbors basically gathered to oppose him all the way to T-Lab. Yeah. The guy spent over $100 grand to fight them, and took him 5 years before he could build anything, right? That he's an architect. He knows this stuff and the neighborhood. And what Matt is saying, that's exactly what's happening, right? And my street is full of basically rental housing, multi-unit buildings. So I basically, even for myself, I have the most gentle of type of renovations. I didn't tear down the house. I did internal type of renovations, and I still have neighbors opposing me at committee of adjustments over like, things like we don't want Airbnb. We don't want it. It's nothing to do with my application at all. Right. Yeah. So this is the stuff we're dealing with, and they want this, but yet they have no clue. They absolutely have no clue how to do it. So it's not trivial. But again, if you know how to navigate like through Volition, you guys know what you're talking about. There is a chance, but otherwise, a regular person cannot even build a triplex here. There is just no friggin' way. And then you have your way of basically doing one stage at a time, because otherwise the development charges would just kill you. Yeah. Absolutely kill you. Like one of the guys who went from a single family to a triplex, $110,000 in development charges. Now, I've been able to avoid that by another way of doing it. I found a way to, my development charges would have been like 120,000, right? So there's things that it is not trivial. Understand the bylaws is not trivial, but if you know what you're doing, you go with these guys, that is the only way. And in Toronto, especially these areas, this is exactly what's happening. It makes no sense. You want that mass transit, and serving single family homes makes no sense whatsoever. And the best way is the yellow zone you're talking about. Absolutely. That is the biggest area we could increase densification. It is huge untapped potential. And what is the first thing people think of? Yonge and Eglinton. They built this tsunami wall of high rises. It makes no friggin' sense. But anyways, I'm just basically sharing what these guys are saying. I was deep in this for 2 friggin' solid years, including community adjustments, including TLAB. I had somebody basically oppose my approval from community adjustments. So I went through the whole thing, and it could cost somebody huge boatload of money if you don't get proper, navigational guidance. So these guys could provide that for you, right? So anyway, just giving you, this is personal experience, and it is not trivial, but if you do it right, it is huge. The returns are huge, but it's a huge gamble if you just go in there blindly. You're dead, absolutely dead. Anyways, I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate the background and the color commentary. But anyway, to answer your question, Kaushik, not enough rental units are being built, and this is why.
Yeah, in summary, right? And they want it. It's a housing crisis. They want it, energy crisis, but they have no clue. They absolutely, and the city is actually learning from us how to do this. They have, they're learning from us. Yeah. Anyway.
Cool. I think Sean had his hand up for a long time. Is he still here? maybe he bounced.
Anybody else have any questions or anything for us?
Someone messaged me privately how to join the Volition inner circle in WhatsApp. So clients only. Clients include realty clients. Clients include advisory clients. So if you become a Volition client, then you'll have access to it. Tom just asked, how can someone get started? How does someone get started working with Volition or investing in real estate in general? Oh, thanks, Simon. You've been it's been a pleasure having you here to invest in real estate. Your first step would be reach out to Volition, reach out to us with advisory. That's going to be your starting point. And then we can figure out, like I said, where you're at, where you figure out where you want to go, help you build that plan to get there.
Because the reason that's the answer is because it differs highly for everybody, right? And it also differs in what you're trying to get out of real estate. It's, the equivalent question is like, what stock should I buy? And there's no right answer to that, right? It's like, what are you trying to do? Should you even be buying stocks, right? So that's where we don't want to give you a trite answer, a trivial answer to what is actually a complicated answer, and should be, because it's based on your personal situation.
So I'll give you a quick example. Some people come to me and they're like, "Oh, I want maximum cash flow." I'm like, you want maximum cash flow? Go buy a student rental out in like.
You can buy the one I'm selling.
go buy it in Windsor or something like that. Without being without trying to be too harsh in small towns, generally speaking, that is going to provide maximum cash flow. But the question is, why are you getting maximum cash flow there? Why are you getting so much cash flow? If you can't answer that question, you have no business investing out there and buying that student rental. But I can tell you why you get maximum cash flow. I also recognize that the risks and what it takes to buy one of those and operate one of those, I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, right? So people ask the wrong questions, right? People focus on the wrong things. This is why it's really, really important to figure out what your goals are, because then we can line up your investments to those goals. Cool. Was there anything else? I didn't read through all the questions, so I wasn't sure if there's anything else.
I had one more question. I really like the slide about, where you talked about the long-term plan, right? Where you go from one property to two. I even took a screenshot of it.
Ming wanted me to take it out because he thought the presentation was too long. But
I'm gonna post that up and be like, that's the life goal, But I really like what you did that with that slide. But towards the end, you mentioned divesting and then just living off the cash flow, right? I just wanted to understand that a little bit more, just because the numbers didn't fully make sense, right? Because even if you did get to that stage, you'd be making about $31,000 in cash flow, right? I guess you'd have to sell off a full property to fully retire if that was your goal, right? I I was just curious about that. This
here
one
it
right
is.
here.
Yeah. So this is the key right here. Everyone focuses on this. If you can see my cursor, everyone focuses on the acquisition because that's the sexy part. It's not that sexy just to hold just to hold. It's sexy to build your portfolio, right? No one talks about end game. That's why, right? This is why we're really big on figuring out what your goals are, because then we can map this plan. We can customize a plan for you according to this framework. Because everyone's goals are different. Yours won't look like this necessarily. It could, or maybe it doesn't. But anyway, what we're talking about is here. So the magic here is I use 50% just for ease of being able to teach people and educate. But this number doesn't have to be 50%. I'm using 50%. If you get to 50% across your entire portfolio, this is a combination of over the 6 years, appreciation at 5% growth. That's what we're modeling, 5% growth, and mortgage pay down over that period of time. You'll reach 50% loan to value. And if you're 50% loan to value across your entire portfolio, what you want to do, potentially, what you might want to do, is sell off these guys, pay off the mortgages of the other guys. That's how it works, right? So these properties here become these, or whatever, however you want to look at it. Basically, these ones don't have a mortgage anymore. Because if I've used all the proceeds, all of the equity, I've basically transformed equity into cash flow. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. It was just that, like, in terms of, like, let's say somebody wanted to fully retire at that point, right? Like 18 years down the road, they would need to actually sell another one as well on top of that, right? Like you wouldn't be able to live off 31,000, would you?
That's monthly.
Oh, that's monthly. Interesting. Okay, there we go.
Dude, you can survive off of 380 grand a year.
There we go. Okay. So that makes more sense. That's where I was like completely misunderstanding it.
I was like,
okay.
What kind of lifestyle are you living, man?
There we go. Okay, now it all makes more sense. I guess that was just the clarification point. But I love this slide. This is beautiful. You guys should always talk about this.
Great. Now Matt will always.
I've been vindicated. Thank you, Tasha. I appreciate that. I can now stick this in every presentation and snub my nose at everyone else. That's cool.
Okay. Well, we're rolling up on 7 o'clock now. So if you guys have any other questions for us, email us at info@volitionprop.com. We'll get back to you. Follow us on social media. We try to post some of these things. We're old fuddy-duddies, so we're not very great at it. But we're trying to do a better job these days.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining tonight.
Thanks, Bing. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.